3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, we have a quorum.
All right, awesome. Check that off. Okay, consent agenda. Agenda minutes, treasurer's report. Ted, do you have anything for us here today or?
You're muted, Ted.
You're still muted, but I think are you shaking your head?
Oh, consent agenda, no, but I have public comment.
Okay, no, but do you have a treasurer's report?
Oh, no activity.
Okay. Um, okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda in the minutes. Anyone?
Well, I can't. I wrote the minutes.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you for being here. All right. Do we have a second?
Well, who's the first?
Jen Lawson.
Oh, hi, Jen. Thank
And
you.
there's Cecilia. Hi, Cecilia. Jen, and do we have a second? Oh, thank you. Was that Brian?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Any negatives? Okay. Well, thank you for that. Public safety, law enforcement, is Commander Abbas here? I can't see everybody, so I do not see Commander Abbas. Okay, so then let's keep it moving. To our dear fire chief, Michael Berkey, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, I have my fire chief's report for December. Is this the time that?
Go for it. Yeah, you got
Awesome.
moved up.
So, yeah, it feels strange.
Right? I know. How do you feel
It's like
about
9
this?
o'clock and I've been at the end of the meeting. This is
I
great.
know. And if everybody could just take in his office, it's fancy.
It's a Zoom background. It's fake.
Oh, well, look, you're lying. Is it actually fake or that's your actual office?
Just
This
kidding.
is your office.
Yeah, I'm still
I
at
know.
work.
Well, I was surprised. We'll keep it moving, but I was surprised it looked like the Oval Office. Give it to us. Give us your report.
Oval Office. Oh boy. Okay. For the month of December, we had incidents. We had a total of 133 incidences, which is quite a bit. We had 8 false alarms, 42 public service assists, 3 hazardous conditions, 78 medical emergencies, and 2 fires. One of those fires was a chimney fire. The other one was a battery. What it was like uh, battery on like a bicycle, one of those
e-bikes.
bikes. Exactly. Thank you. So moving down the report, so comparison information. So we had non-residents. We treated or we served 26 non-residents, and we served 90 residents during the month of December. For kind of a comparison of December 2024, we had 104 incidents. So obviously we're quite a bit higher this month. For year to date in 2025, we were 100, excuse me, 1,168. And then a year to date for 2024 was 1,020. Moving on to training. So our crews mainly focused on command and control for active shooter incidents, MCIs, which is multi-casualty incidents, rescue task force, those type of things, and kind of a larger scale incidents. And then for medical emergencies, they focused on cardiac dysrhythmias. Public interaction and education, we really focus on in December. A lot of it's focused around the Christmas, the holiday. We do a couple of Santa deliveries. I'm sure you guys have seen them around in the fire engine. But that's kind of what the end of the year is focused on, and also kind of a year-end review of the kind of how our service was, provided in how the crews reacted to it and how their kind of year went. So we are in the process, as many of you might know, we're having a liaison meeting this next week to kind of look back and forward and see what we can do better and what the next steps we want to take with the liaison program is. So I'm really excited about that. Some of the talk has been really pushing for more emergency preparedness meetings in the way of like potentially an open house for the fire department, as well as an evacuation plan, or excuse me, an evacuation drill, possibly at the end of this year, but that might be moving on until the following year, around this time, probably spring for next year, but because that takes quite a bit of planning. Moving on. So to continue and finish my report, we have 5 business inspections. This is all under public service. We did 5 business inspections, 2 defensible space residential inspections, and we had 4 smoke detector changes. That really concludes my report for the month of December. So I'm open to any questions, and yeah.
Thank you for that. Let me see. Do I have any? Oh, Kathy has her hand up. You want to go ahead? Kathy, you might be muted.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mike, I understand there was some sort of a sheriff's incident on Melrose last night or yesterday. Do you have any idea what that was? I haven't been able to get any information.
I do not. I don't. Yeah, no. If you said it was a law enforcement,
Law enforcement, it was sheriff, deputies, guns drawn.
yeah, I don't have any
It's like
information on
early in
that.
the morning on Berwick and
Yeah.
Melrose, people were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
apologize. I don't have any information on that. I was not made aware. My crews have not made me aware of anything that they responded to in that area.
I'm thinking, since I haven't heard anything, the sheriff's log seems to be a day or so behind, which isn't helpful at all. But I'm thinking maybe it was a parole violation or something, because sometimes if they suspect there might be a problem, they go in prepared, shall we say. Thanks.
All
anyway.
right. So thank you, Kathy, and all, Commander Boss might show up, so stick around for a second and we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be here.
Oh,
But,
perfect.
I sent you an email asking you to ask Abbas this, but since he wasn't here, I thought, well, I'll ask Mike.
Yes, I emailed him. I just haven't heard back, so they're probably busy.
Okay. Yeah. There's always something going on, isn't there?
Yes, there definitely is. All right, thank you. And does anybody else have anything for our chief of fire? I don't see any other hands. All right, thank you for being here. Stick around if you would like. All right, we're moving on. Public comment. I know Ted said, do I see any other hands? And somebody can help me. I mean, I feel like my Zoom reorganized itself over the new year. So if I'm missing anybody, Chris Fox, go ahead. Oops,
Okay, thank you.
there you go. Hi,
yeah,
Happy
hi.
New Year.
I wish that there was somebody from traffic enforcement here tonight, because that's really my concern, and I'll bring it up again at the next meeting. The 2-lane highway that comes into Cambria isn't a freeway, and I think there are a lot of people who don't understand this, maybe perhaps people who don't live in the area. But I've witnessed a couple of things just in the last 2 weeks that were really scary. People pulling out, passing 2 cars, almost hit somebody head on. The oncoming car had to go deep into the shoulder to get out of the way. And this kind of thing happens a lot. I'm I like to, obey the law in terms of speeding, but I can't say that I'm the best example. But I don't go 65 or 70 on Route 1 between here and Cayucos. But if you're not going that fast, there is a pretty good chance that either you're going to lead, you're going to have somebody on your tail, or a bunch of people are going to pass you and zoom into Cambria. I wish there was something we could do. Maybe, if the county could take a look at whether it is really safe to pass in as many places as people are allowed to in that space. I think maybe more visible CHP officers or sheriff officers, not so much up on the hill where they catch you coming or going from the 2 to the 4 lane. You know, I have noticed that when there is a sheriff's vehicle or a CHP vehicle pulled over in one of the pullouts by the ocean, that people really do slow down. And I think just the presence of somebody there watching kind of is perhaps maybe the first thing that can be done to get people to slow down in that part of the highway. It's getting scary, and now with the road open all the way to Carmel, I think it's just going to be a summer of a lot of speeding. Maybe it's not a big issue for everyone, but I think it's just really dangerous to drive sometimes on that road, and yeah, it makes me kind of unhappy. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. And I know that Darren would love to support with this. So why don't I'll put you guys on an email since he wasn't able to be here tonight. All right, we have Katie. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, hi there. I'm here for the usual reason, and I'm happy to truncate what I need to say if Mr. Gibson has something prepared to already say, because I had emailed Mr. Gibson earlier or last night, and basically I'm seeking as an update with regard to the Newton Ramsey properties over here in the Wilton Circle. I'm looking for updates from law enforcement, from county code enforcement, and parking enforcement. I know that there was on October 22nd, 2025, there were 6 sheriffs and a K-9 unit that arrested 4 individuals on the Ramsey property, and that they were arrested for things such as drug possession, weapons possession, and parole violations. And I just want some sort of assertion from law enforcement that these individuals and others like them are not going to repopulate these 2 properties, as has been the case in the past. Perhaps that ties into the original comment from earlier in the meeting today. And then at the same time that these folks got arrested, there were code violations, citations for the property owner. And there was for trash removal and for proof of permitting, and there were deadlines attached to that. And I'm not sure, Bruce, if you had the time to look at my email, but I gave you those deadlines in the email as I know them. And I wanted to find out where we are with, either inspections or whatever, to know that we're moving along with making sure that the trash is going to be removed and fully, inspected, that it has been done, and that is someone going to come out and check the structures for, code, to adhere to code, and the grading. And then, I also want to sort of get back to the whole thing with the parking situation, where on that dirt road, there are vehicles parked day and night that are bumper to bumper on that skinny road, where I think that Chief Berkey and his team would have a real hard time getting an engine down there if there were a reason to do that. And there's got to be a provision in the law for somewhere where our safety enforcement has access to the roads for people that need, and not just them, but also for us to be able to evacuate swiftly. So if that is one of the roads that's to be used as evacuation, because on the Wilton Circle, we don't have much alternative to get in and out. It's a tight situation. So if that was going to be a road, which there are houses on that road that people would need to get out of in a hurry, having those cars there would prove problematic, much like in the Palisades, which we all know about. So anyway, that's what I really just wanted to say. And like I said, if I'm being redundant with what you had planned to say, Bruce, I apologize, but I just wanted to mention it.
All right, thank you, Katie. Cecilia has her hand up, and I'm assuming if Bruce has an update, he'll share it with you when he's on. Okay, Cecilia, I see your hand up.
Just a quick question because I'm not really familiar with this. Where is this property?
This is like East Lodge Hill, like Ramsey Drive, and what's the and Berkey or Katie jump in and remind me because it's
What's
Ramsey.
the cross streets?
It's the Wilton Circle, so it's right off of Burton.
Oh, I know the Wilton Circle quite well. So
Yeah, there you go.
okay, all right, I'll look it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Cecilia, I can send it to you. Yeah, it's
Okay.
like, it's
Oh, that's
very-
interesting. Oh, I did not
Yeah.
know. My mom is living there, so I guess
yes. I'll send it to you.
okay.
All right, thank you. Deborah, do you want to go ahead? Oops, you're muted.
Just real quickly, in Topanga Canyon and a lot of the areas in Los Angeles County, there are on your 911 reverse 911 alerts, when there are red flag conditions, you do not get to park in certain areas. Your car has to come off that road. I think we should instate some legislation that we have that provision in this county. I don't know that we have it right now. So those cars, people just use it as, a parking lot, as Katie was saying, and who's going to move them in an emergency? We'll have to get a dozer up here like they did in Pacific Palisades. So legislation and the law regarding parking, people get the messages, they come out on the news, no parking from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., days later. And if the winds die down and the temperature, weather changes, then they release those provisions and parking goes back to normal. That's it for me.
Thank you. I know I'm not going to engage because we'll go back and forth all day. So thank you, Deborah. I don't see any other hands. If I'm missing-
Christina, Ted. Ted,
Does he
he-
do it?
who's muted.
Okay, go ahead. I'm like, is he
Yes.
doing like a real life hand?
Yes, I'm up in Lake Tahoe right now on my phone, and it's operating a little bit differently. I cannot just remain silent over the past couple of months. The assignment of Supervisor Gibson's administrative assistant has caused quite a stir, both with me and with many of the other people in Cambria that I've spoken to. It certainly has created quite a stir in several of the newspaper articles that I've been reading, and I frankly can't find anything to argue about in their analysis, frankly. It seems to me inappropriate that Bruce would choose his chosen candidate to fill this part-time or this position, given the upcoming election, but that's going to be a matter for the electorate in November. In the interim period, I think that the Board of Supervisors needs to very carefully review its policies and procedures for assigning administrative assistants, not just for our supervisor, but for all of them, so that we can avoid these kinds of shocking developments going forward. On to a better, more positive link. I noticed that on December 9th, the Board of Supervisors unanimously consented to a $25,000 study to study SMRs for our county. As you know, I have been a proponent of this technology. I hope that this $25,000 is only an opening salvo for this study, given that the federal grant money, or I'm not exactly sure where it came from, but there's over $1 million by comparison, that has been used up by the Mott McDonald people. We have no report for that yet. It's tardy. There has been no public outreach that I have detected from it. And so the contrast here is stark, to say the least. Let me just say this, that the installation of two Westinghouse AP1000 reactors, which is be about half of what the Vogtle reactor, the largest reactor in the United States, would create a reactor system at Diablo, and it has four actually empty areas, reactor holes, I guess you'd call them, and that would make Diablo Canyon the second largest generator of nuclear power, which would give us 24/7, 365 baseload power. Absolutely blows this floating wind thing right out of the water. As far as I can tell, the Mott McDonald study is going to be nothing but a rah-rah rodeo for that.
Ted, sorry to interrupt you, but can you round this out for us?
Yes, I'm all done. I just think that that I'm hoping that the opening salvo for the study of SMR reactors for this county and for this state is just that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, no other public comment. Supervisor Bruce Gibson, thank you for being here.
Madam Chair, always a pleasure, and greetings in the new year.
Happy New Year.
And to you all. A few things. I mean, I guess Cambria specific, the most exciting thing is that Highway 1 is reopened. I know that means a great deal to a lot of folks. You know, Caltrans was communicating just ahead of that formal opening, and they were just absolutely thrilled. I mean, just extraordinary effort to deal with the physics of that situation. They're planning an event a little bit later, probably in the spring, to be sure we're past the rainy season and can truly celebrate. So kudos to all involved in that. Speaking on the Ramsey matter, Ms. Wassenaar, I did receive your email and looked it over. We forwarded it on to both our code enforcement and the sheriff, and unfortunately have not received any response back as of this moment. So we'll keep tracking that, and we'll give you give you an update. I certainly know both of those parts of county government are aware, and we'll make sure that we get an update as soon as we can. In terms of the board itself, next Tuesday is going to be a big day for a variety of reasons. The items on the open agenda as opposed to the consent agenda are only three, but each of them is significant. One of them is having the board consider the expenditure plan for the transportation sales tax measure. And Mr. Worthley from SLOCOG is here, and I see on your agenda to present that in a little bit. The board will get that same presentation, talk about what we see the issues are, and in terms of monies coming to the unincorporated county and the wider issue of how this all affects our transportation system in the county. I have been for years and years and years supportive of getting this done. This half-cent sales tax would make us a self-help county, as the terminology goes. That means we would be eligible for tens of millions of dollars of grant funds that we're not eligible for, and James has given you that analysis. So we'll see how that goes, see what tweaks there are, but we're moving to put that on the ballot for November, and we'll look forward to that getting in front of the voters. Second item on the open agenda is a major investment in mental health and substance abuse therapies for the county using state funds. $21.6 million grant is going to be accepted that would go into securing a building over in Paso Robles and building it out for a variety of needs. Inpatient beds for youth, beds where folks who are put on so-called 5150 holds, which is folks in such mental health crisis that they can't, or that they pose a danger to themselves or others, can be held for an initial 72 hours and possibly longer while that situation gets stabilized. So this is going to be a huge input improvement to the county's behavioral health system. And I'll save the other item of the agenda just to transition from that into an issue that we're very much aware of and concerned about, revolves around the state budget. And the governor has put out his proposal, as he always does about this time in January. We are concerned that the budget does not do as much as it could or should to address protecting our social safety net, including our efforts at homelessness. That we know that as a consequence of the Trump administration, we are looking at significant threats to those who depend on public health, mental health, homeless services, all the rest of that. The state has a responsibility to the counties to be looking at what we need to get the job done, and those resources are not well expressed in the proposed budget. Now, it is, of course, the proposed budget. It will go through the process. There will be a revision out in May. The state budget has to be passed by the end of June, and that does happen regularly. A lot gets changed between now and then, but we're let you know that we're deeply engaged with that. And of course, the state budget has bears the impacts of the trickle down from the federal spending or lack thereof. So all of these things. And then speaking of federal issues, the other major issue on the other major item on the board's agenda, which is scheduled to start at 1:30, is what we call a Truth Act forum. I don't remember exactly what the acronym TRUTH stands for, but the essence of it is it's a report from our sheriff's department about their interactions over the last calendar year, and in fact, they will report over the last 2 calendar years, their interactions with immigration enforcement agencies of the federal government. It's a consequent to a bit of state law. There has been a tremendous amount of public concern over the activities that we've seen ICE, Border Patrol, other agencies undertake here. And I think you all are likely well aware of what's happened elsewhere in the nation. By scale, a much smaller scale, a much lesser intensity here, but nonetheless, as I watch, I am absolutely appalled. We have masked, armed, basically secret police acting in an extrajudicial manner, grabbing folks off the street, taking them to detention centers without due process. Clearly, to me, an organized effort at intimidation that's laced with just an appalling amount of brutality. To that issue, as many of you may well be aware, there have been calls to see what the county can do about excluding ICE from county facilities. That's an issue that has been undertaken in other counties and cities within the state of California. It's something that I am tracking, how other jurisdictions have gone about it. My sense is that the only moral position is to do what we can to make sure that we are isolating from this deeply misguided federal effort. So I know that the afternoon of next Tuesday is going to be long and emotional, but it is an important conversation that we're going to have at the local level. And so with that, of course, a whole bunch of other stuff always going on, but I'll pause there and be available for your questions.
All right, thank you, Bruce. I have a question, but I know that Berkey got his hand up before me. Go ahead.
That's right. I was first.
Always first.
Professor Gibson, thank you so much for that report. I had a question regarding where I could find more information on the $26 million grant for the mental health facility.
Yeah, 21.6. It's the staff report is out. It is item, let me see, it's item 20 something here. I know how to read this. 26 on Tuesday's agenda.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you. And really quick, while we're on that, can you just, for the sake of, I think, people understanding how things happen in government, Bruce, can you give us a 20-second overview on how we receive a $21.6 million grant? Like, is that a community effort, a county effort that goes out to the state, or, all right, go.
So we spend a lot more than 20 seconds filling out a tall stack of paperwork, explaining exactly what it is that we're going to do with this money, how it fits the aim to provide more mental health. This is under, and I'll make sure I get the, this is a result of the bond funding that was passed in Proposition 1, which you may remember acted on the last ballot. There was a lot of activity there reorganizing the state's approach to behavioral health. It forces certain changes on the county, but it also did provide, I think, close to $4 billion or $6 billion in grant monies that counties can use to improve their facilities and run their programs. So,
wow, that was, thank you. That was good.
20 seconds. You know, I just like Chat GPT. Give me a time or a word limit. I'll comply. Or try. I'll try.
It was impressive. Thank you. And yeah, thank you guys for doing that. That's huge. Valerie, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I just had a follow-up question about Katie's issue. And I do know that area well because I do live on Burton. And I think she's presented you with a pretty serious concern about the entrance and egress on that circle and the constant clogging of cars and coming and going of cars. And I'm not exactly sure why the sheriff can't just do a quick sweep through there and kind of figure out, you know, if there's validity to her safety. I mean, with fire season coming up, I worry about that. And I appreciate you answering her, but I don't really feel like you answered her. Like, could you come up with some kind of a timeline? I just don't want to be on one of these meetings 10 months from now. And there's Katie talking about the same thing and nothing gets done. And she's feeling in fear. And I'm in fear of some of the people I see going in and out of there with going in with empty backpacks and coming out with full backpacks, you know, so you can take that for whatever. But thank you. I'll mute to hear your response.
Sure. I can speak to that. It's I get the frustration. I get the concern in dealing with this situation. And we've talked a bit about it before in this forum. We have to proceed with appropriate due process. So both in terms of the potential violations of our building codes and other ordinances of the county, and any criminal activity that may or may not be undertaken there. That's why we have both our code enforcement and our sheriff's department keenly aware of what's going on. But I think as you well realize, an empty backpack going onto the property and a full one coming out does not, in and of itself, lacking any other information, pose propose an enforceable or a means for law enforcement to act. It does take longer than folks like for enforcement actions to proceed. But again, on the code enforcement side, we need to document what's going on there. We need to give reasonable times for correction. I appreciate Katie giving all the timelines as she understands them. We'll confirm those with code enforcement. Again, usually they're very responsive, but with the timing of this one and the holiday on Monday, they just didn't get back to us. And so we'll absolutely keep on that. We'll get that response to Katie and copy Christina on this, and we'll go from there. As far as the ingress egress issue, that's certainly a reasonable question to raise, and we can work with Chief Berkey to just see what he thinks about the ability to get emergency response vehicles of all sorts into that particular area. I thought it was intriguing, the idea that on certain declared red flag days that parking restrictions might be adjusted. And we can certainly run that down. I think that would be, excuse me, an ideal topic for the Fire Safe Focus Group to take up. But we can see in the interim, the situation on the road is a case by case. As you can imagine, first of all, I think you may know that the matters of enforcement on public roads is a highway patrol authority and responsibility. Sheriffs can attend to those as if there is certain emergency situations, but neither one of those agencies has a whole lot of cars on the street in a town as remote as Cambria. So I think the key there is to observe the situation. We would rely on residents. If you see something that looks to be at issue, if Chief Berkey doesn't mind receiving some notice on that, we can also notice the Sheriff's Department. We can check it out and see what the actual impact might be. So we're happy to keep engaged on that, but we do need the engagement of the community to help us.
All right, thank you, Bruce. And then Katie, I know you have your hand up, and just try to make it, you guys, as quick as possible because we have so much to get through and you guys can handle this maybe on a call. Okay, go ahead. Oh, where did Kate? I didn't say leave. Where'd she go?
She's muted.
Sorry.
Oh, muted?
Okay,
Okay.
I'll make it as quickly as possible. I just wanted to...
and not, I take this issue very seriously.
All right, I'll be as fast as possible. Here's what I got.
Right.
After our liaison meeting with the fire safety on our neighborhood, many of the neighbors in that meeting brought up their concerns, and following that meeting, a lot of them went home and wrote letters. I myself submitted several to Bruce and Blake and wherever they go from there. And I know others did so independently. I just would like confirmation that those letters have been added to the file for this case. So they are being read by the county and acknowledged, and that they are on file for having been written, because these letters indicate decades of this being a problem. And I think that I can speak for the neighborhood when I say decades is a long time and they're kind of over it. So that's really all I wanted to say. I just want to know you got the letters, and I want to know that they're on file.
So I saw my chief of staff nodding there. Mr. D'Antona, are you aware of these letters in the file, or is that just general assent to the issue there?
No, so just this morning, as I was digging through some of it, going back to the old file, found them all, was forwarding those back to our code enforcement team to make sure they had it to follow back on what we were talking about. So I know I had just forwarded them today again, but I know Blake already had them in the file.
And,
Okay. Thank you very much for confirming that you have them and that they have been read.
and while we have Jim off mute here, let me just introduce Mr. Jim D'Antona, who is Blake's replacement, Chief of Staff for District 2. Been at this since the first week of this month, doing a great job, reaching out, making contact, and giving the same great service that you've come to expect from the office of the Second District. So appreciate you being there, Jim. Blake, Jim is available for you to contact. His email is jdantona, JDANTONA, at the normal mess that is the county email. And instead of B. Fixler, you got J. D'Antona, and we're here to serve. So thank you for that.
All right. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Jim. And yeah, thank you, Jim, for being here. I was going to do the introduction, but you're quick tonight, Jeff Bloom.
Well, I've still got a little capacity left.
Oh, it's like that second wind. Jeff Bloom, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick thing is perhaps this is good timing since we've discussed the fire access and we have some public works representatives this time at our meeting that they actually take a hard look with Chief Berkey at putting out fire lane signage. You don't have to have a red curb to have a fire lane, and it would take them being approved traffic control signs, not just residents putting up a fire lane sign. But it might be a great opportunity to invite Public Works to work with Chief Berkey. It's come up repeatedly. It did for Pine Knolls, the narrow streets and people not being able to get through during some construction and otherwise. So signage in Cambria might be one of the ways to accomplish that if somebody took a hard look at it. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Can do.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I know people from Public Works are here, but for other reasons. So maybe we can keep moving and take that offline for 1 month.
Oh, I'm not suggesting we talk about it tonight. I just
think
with them here, they can talk to their peers in the office who might handle that and help Chief Berkey get access to them to talk about the general issue of fire access.
Yes. No, I'm with you on that 100%.
Yeah, because if we want good enforcement by the law enforcement people, we need it signed correctly, and even Chief Berkey could issue citations for fire lane violations if he chose to do it. So
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Deborah, you have your hand up, and I'm with you on this issue, but let's make it quick so we can keep it moving.
I've spoken to the different maintenance crews, and basically if you do anything that's not already there regarding signage, it needs like an engineer's study. So it's not just asking for something. The next step is to get a study done. That's all I have to say. I've researched it quite extensively.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's see what we can do in the next month, and yeah, see what happens. Thank you guys for that. We are going to move on, well, to you, Deborah, if you want to continue this fire safe focus. So if you have anything to share with us,
Okay, just real fast, the last meeting that we had December 2nd, we're working on grants. That takes years. Getting permits takes years, and then the work takes like 2 weeks. So if people are wondering what's going on, it just takes a long, long time. It's a long, long process, and everybody needs to be patient. But the end goal is the fire abatement and to have a healthy forest. That's what I have.
You're amazing. I'm so
I'm
happy.
fast.
Thank you. And yes, please, everybody, just reach out to Deborah, go to the Fire Safe Focus meetings, and you're going to kill it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on. Burton Drive pedestrian path, something that I've heard about as a dream since I joined NCAC. And now, let's see, is Tyler?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Yay! Okay, you're a co-host too, right?
Perfect. Yep. I'm going to share my screen now, so just give me a second here. Want to make sure you can all see my screen appropriately. Great. Got a thumbs up from Deborah, so thank you. So hello. Firstly, just like to introduce myself. Tyler English. Thanks for having me here to present the Burton Drive pedestrian pathway project. I'm a project manager with Public Works. And just an FYI, we did coordinate with the fire chief who's on the call here with this plan. So along with me is Jeff Lee, who's our division manager of the transportation division. So our goal here today is to present the 30% geometric design plans for the Burton Drive pedestrian path. Our goal today is to receive any formal feedback from your group with regards to the memo, which was included in your agenda and we had sent out, as well as this presentation that we're given today, as well as a request from our team to help with finding a project sponsor. To complete the plans and construct the path. Currently, the project's only funded through the 30% plan development phase, which is where we're at today. And so it would require additional funding in furthering the development of the plan, as well as the cost to construct. So Burton Drive pedestrian path is kind of been referenced in many plans throughout the years, starting with the 1988 North Coast Community Plan, where the language in the plan reads, the community should continue to provide pedestrian trails, walkways, and sidewalks where appropriate to serve residents and visitors in the community. As well as in the 1992 circulation study that states Burton Drive should be widened to accommodate for bicycle facilities and a new roadway constructed at Piney Way to accommodate for additional connection and to accommodate for pedestrians. And then more recently in the 2023 SLOCOG Regional Transportation Plan, which John and James are on this call here today, states Burton Drive should be widened for pedestrian improvements. So this where we are today has been long in the works. I wanted to kind of zoom out here. I know there's been a little bit of conversation just now about Burton Drive, but give an aerial perspective of where the project's located, as well as a look at some of our rejected project alternatives. So the red line, which is Burton Drive from the intersection of Eaton down to the bridge, is highlighted here in red, as well as two alternatives that we looked at in development of the plan. The first was the extension of Piney Way, which is in the circulation study, and then as well as the connection of Schoolhouse Lane to Main Street. So both of those alternatives were rejected kind of early on in our analysis, just based on right-of-way constraints as well as cost of construction. So we're really looking for an alternative to the project that may fit a different criteria than what the actual plan was. So that's why those were rejected. I also thought I'd just share a few photos of the existing conditions of Burton Drive. So when we were doing our existing conditions analysis on the project, we flew a drone, and I have a bunch of really cool pictures that I can share at a later date if you all want. But we did a photographic survey of the roadway and got some really cool shots that we're sharing. So these are cool. These are great because they depict the hilly terrain as well as the constrained roadway width. But it also shows the trampled path that's just outside the guardrail, which is currently used by those traveling on foot on Burton Drive. So it really gave us a good kind of overhead view of what we're dealing with. And then as we dive into the plan, for this presentation, I made a really condensed version. That way we weren't going through every sheet. So I just have the first and the kind of bookends of the project here. But the full document was shared in the memo that's in your agenda, and I've got it open if there's any questions or anything like that along the way that we don't address. But kind of the summary of the project is this is a conceptual design of a 6-foot wide pedestrian path that's 2,100 feet long along Burton Drive, located between the Santa Rosa Creek Bridge and at intersections of Eaton Road, where it connects to existing sidewalk infrastructure. So within the plan, we have various cross sections which detailed the variety of the hillside terrain along Burton Drive. These are kind of our toolkit as what we're going to use to construct the path along the roadway. There's sections where just traditional grading is going to work, to variety of different wall sections. In some areas, it's going to be a 16-foot tall retaining wall required to get the path in there. So from the existing fog line that's on the roadway today, there will be a total of an additional 16 feet of width within the roadway. That's to accommodate a shoulder, which in some locations currently doesn't exist, a guardrail, and then a buffer from the guardrail to the pedestrian path, as well as any infrastructure required to retain the soil for that path. So looking at our first section of the plan here, we broke up the plan starting at the bottom of the hill and working our way up. So this first section is right there where the bridge happens, where you're headed into Main Street. So here at the beginning of the path, we show the existing sidewalk over the bridge being upgraded with new ADA facilities, creating a formal marked crossing over Burton Drive with a sidewalk that connects to the stairs that head up to the lodge, as well as the retaining wall to put the path adjacent to Burton as we head uphill. Over over Village Lane, there'd be a formal crosswalk and pedestrian facilities. And then the cross section of the 6-foot path and various slope stabilization sections would continue the full length of the project area. So I kind of skipped to the book end of the project here, where we look at the last section where Burton Drive connects with Eaton. And so here we'll have another crossing where we'll connect to the existing pedestrian facilities, where from now down at the bottom of the bridge all the way to Santa Lucia School, there would be an uninterrupted sidewalk all the way to and from the school to downtown. So in development of these plans and the creation of the memo that we sent over to you, our consultant, Rick Engineering, they developed an engineer's estimate for the cost of constructing the path. The costs are pretty preliminary and don't account for any of the soft costs, such as a full survey, a geotechnical survey, further plan development, any sort of right-of-way costs, or inflationary costs associated with the future costs of construction. But for us, it was really important to include at this milestone a benchmark for what it's going to cost for us to construct the path. And so it may be a little small here depending on your screen. I see a couple of you guys squinting at it, but the cost for construction is estimated at over $6 million for this path. So it's a relatively expensive project for the area. So that kind of leads me into our plan alternative. So it was important for us because we knew the cost of construction was going to be high, and this is a project that we've talked about for a long time. So it's important for us to kind of explore alternatives along with the path. So like we saw before, that was Schoolhouse Lane to Main, as well as Piney Way down to the bridge. So this alternative is that we're going to present here is more of a quick build, low cost alternative. It's much more conceptual than the plans that we've sent over to you all. And I want to say I spoke to the fire chief about this first, and he was in full support of the plan that we just looked about. And I'm going to read a quote from you, Chief, if that's okay, which writes the formalized path, which we just looked at, provides an additional 16 feet of defensible space, enhancing fire protection opportunities for businesses and residents located uphill from Burton Drive. The department supports this concept and its a beneficial component to the project's overall safety and resilience objectives. So and we also met with them to see if we were too crazy with our alternative. And he had a number of comments regarding the alternative, to making sure that when we look at it, there's no restrictions for emergency response vehicles, that we do proper traffic modeling, evacuation modeling, as well as coordinating with all different interdisciplinary agencies. So our plan alternative utilizes the existing roadway and basically creates a one-way road from Burton Drive, from Village Drive. Oh, I didn't switch slides. From Village Lane up to Eaton. So here's kind of the schematic for the lower section. So the first portion from the bridge looks very similar to what we saw on the 30% plans. But from Village uphill, the roadway would get converted to one way with just concrete K-rail or delineators, or bollard delineators, something along those lines, that would make Burton one way from Village to Eden uphill. I'll continue showing this. Single lane configuration continues to Eaton Drive, where the ADA ramps would be constructed similar to the 30% plans. So this plan allows for the implementation within the existing roadway, but there'd be significantly more soft costs, just like the chief said: traffic modeling, agency coordination, significant public outreach. But again, the costs to construct are significantly less than the plan that we presented earlier. As you can see here, the cost to construct this path are just about $1 million versus the 6 that we saw before. So then for our group, next steps, like I said at the beginning of the presentation, kind of at the end of our programmed funding for the project. So at this point, at a 30% deliverable, we're looking to receive formal comments from your group for the 30% plan that we received today, as well as any feedback on the alternative that we presented. If you think it's a crazy idea, or if you would like, if you think it's interesting for us to advance and explore, we just really wanted to have 2 different options to really look at. And then currently there's not any opportunity to advance this project, but there are often state and local grant opportunities, and kind of submitting grants that have letters of support from the community go a really long way in helping win those competitive grants. So in addition to your feedback, if your board would take action to draft a letter of support that can live with this document. So we receive your comments, we have a 30% plan, receive a letter of support, we can apply for grants, or the future public works staff can continue to advance the project. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to your board if you have any questions or comments. Like I said, I have the full plans available, so we can open those up and take a look at it.
All right, thank you, Tyler, and thank you guys so much for putting this together. It's like I've been hearing about it since even before I lived here, so to see, I know funding's an issue, but to see it as even a possibility is really cool.
Yeah.
Valerie, do you want to go ahead?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me? So I really like this. This would be a great thing, but I have 2 questions. So as you're going down Burton to where you would kind of veer right to go over the bridge, or you go straight to go on rodeo grounds to go to the dog park, because I go there every day. There's no signage, and if someone's coming over the bridge to make that circle and I'm going straight, there's no stop sign on either way. And so I always yield to the other car, but then I've had people not yield when I'm coming back from town to go up Burton, and they'll just go straight out in front of you. So that's a concern, that there's no stop sign or no kind of directive, a signage to tell who has to yield. It doesn't exist there. And the second thing is what about the creek that runs right there. I know that the Brambles was having problems because they had that riparian offset. So I didn't know if this particular project was going to run into that, but thank you.
Yeah, so to respond to your first question, so Burton has just from the traffic, I'll get with our traffic operations group to confirm. Um, but Burton does have that right of way. Believe that there's a stop at rodeo grounds coming out. If there isn't, I'll reconnect with that group. But that's something that from us, our next steps in plan development are looking at kind of the traffic impacts and things along those lines. We're not yet to striping. We're not yet to signage. We really just took a look at this from constraints and feasibility perspective and what it would take to put that the walls in or the slope stabilization in. So we haven't quite gotten to the traffic-y part of this yet, if that makes sense. And then to answer the second part, absolutely. There's a lot of trees. There's a creek. The environmental concern for this project is relatively high, but at this point we have a concept document that we've coordinated briefly with our environmental staff here. Any further development of the project would require an environmental determination, and that's in the narrative as some constraints within that memo.
I didn't see it in your budget though.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. The budget was looking at just construction cost. So all of those soft costs associated with plan development, we didn't factor any of those in. I think if that's absolutely something that would be a great comment to receive, to take a look at what would environmental impacts look like for this project, as a comment from your group.
All right. Is that? I mean, I won't even, I was going to put Matthew on the spot to talk about how much environmental impact reports cost, but we won't go there because we have a bunch of hands up. But Tyler, maybe we can connect on that afterwards and just see.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of like to set the stage, I mean, there are a ton of different soft costs associated with project advancement. So any sort of project development beyond really today's meeting, formalizing the project, receiving comments, all of that would be captured in future advancement of the project. So our construction estimate is what we have included in this report. We haven't put together the report or a cost analysis to look into any of those other items.
But so I'm understanding and hopefully I'm not cutting ahead of people, but this might save some time with the questions. Like from just a layman standpoint, is where we're at right now kind of, are we behind this? Do we support this? And then everybody gets together and kind of goes out and figures out how to make it a reality, whether, understanding that this could take 5 years or 10 years, but can you just speak to that?
Yeah, that's great summary. So any sort of feedback that you all give us, I mean, like taking a look, expanding the area to look at rodeo grounds is a great comment, right? How this connects to the fire department area, how this connects to the schools. What are your thoughts on this? Is there any thought on why did we look at that side of the roadway? Any sort of comments and feedbacks that you want to give to me, I'm open to hear it all.
Okay, cool. And then, because I know there were a lot of questions around cost. And so this is the first time, because
Sure.
we're Cambria, we're like the youngest child. It's like, this is the first time in a while that I'm sure so many of us have actually seen something actually be put forth like this. So I think just understanding what that process looks like is helpful to everyone, but to everyone eventually being helpful to you in the process. Like this is the first time we're seeing something where you kind of look at it as a regular person and you're like, okay, of course, this sounds amazing, but that looks like a lot of money. So is this ever going to happen? Is it worth my time? You know, all of those things that I think just us community members go through. So I think we're at the stage where we give you feedback, or we're at the stage where we give you feedback and then we give you a recommendation, like a letter of support.
Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of my ask today is feedback, good, bad, and different. And then if you all support the project, our next steps for advancing this work would be applying for competitive grants. We currently do not have a funding source to develop this beyond where we're at today. And so like the active transportation planning grant there's a call for project soon. This would be a project that we applied for, or we did apply for about 10 years ago. We were unsuccessful then. Now we have something on paper. What does that look like for this next round? So all of those kind of things.
Okay, cool. So the sooner we can get you the feedback, the better, the sooner we can recommend something. Okay, awesome. Okay, look at this. Berkey, are you raising your hand because you've officially been quoted?
You know what? I feel like this is an attack. No, so Tyler, thank you so much for that report. And and just as you've said, we worked pretty extensively together on this. I just wanted to make sure it was clear that I did not support the second alternative, where they converted the roadway into a one-way road. That was not something that I supported, mainly for the fact of everything we had been talking about up to this point at this meeting, more or less with emergency access, and we talked extensively about it. So I just wanted to confirm that. The other project did absolutely confirm as you read, but again, I just wanted to offer some clarification there.
Yeah, sorry if that was unclear. I wanted to make sure leading into showing the alternative that the fire department was in full support of the project we looked at before we looked at the other piece. So thank you for the clarification.
Thanks, Tyler.
All right, thank you. Ted Key, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks. It's great to see these plans on paper. I understand exactly where Michael's coming from. The fire station up there, if you're going to get fire trucks down there into that area in a hurry, they're going to have to drive all the way around to get there, which is probably not a good idea. Now, on the other hand, I know from spending many hours in the hardware store that cars coming down that way come down at breakneck speed. And so you really have to be careful when you're exiting Tin City. So that's there's factors both ways. There's a lot of open questions here that need to be answered. But I do think that with the drawings that you have here, it's pretty easy for people to understand what's going on. I got to say, though, if you're looking at shotcreting all that wall there, really, I just don't see how $6 million gets it done. I mean, that's just a gigantic project. But maybe it does. But it's a huge deal, and the funding for that is going to be interesting. But thank you very much for your work. It's great to see it. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment.
Kermit, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I didn't see you on there, Kermit. Long time no see.
I know. I feel like, Kermit, is this the equivalent of you giving birth?
No, it's yes, pretty much winning the lottery. But just two questions here. One is, what's the average grade of that sidewalk as you go up Burton Circle? Or Burton Drive, I mean, up the hill.
I will have to get back to you on that answer there, Kermit.
I was just wondering about ADA creeps in there, and
yeah,
no problem.
We took a look at that, and there's definitely that's part of the reason why we need to get 16 feet worth of width from the existing fog line.
Okay, and but I just want to congratulate you on really a successful alternative to achieving that, because it really is what we've been lacking, and it makes a lot of difference to separate the neighborhood. So I'm glad to see this, and it's a great thing. Would the 1% sales tax make a difference in the funding of this, or is this something that stands alone with the existing fine program that you have?
So I'll let James, I know that's further down on your agenda. I am no subject matter expert in the sales tax measure. But I anecdotally would say it would create a bucket of money that doesn't exist now. So that would be whether this is, this is currently a project within the RTP, which, the Regional Transportation Plan. And so the idea of that sales tax measure, again, I'm going to let James speak to this, but is to fund those projects. So,
okay. But again, thank you for venturing into this, Northwest Passage, so to speak, in Cambria, that definitely needs to be there. And we're looking forward to it already. But we're wondering why it isn't done. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Kermit. Elisa, do you want to go ahead? Oh, are you muted?
Not anymore.
There you go.
Yeah, I was just wondering, so I see a lot of potential problems with turning that section of Burton into a one-way street. And then thinking about the just sheer amount of engineering going into expanding that road to that width. Was there any look at trying to separate the bike and walking path from the road and just have it be independently going in a path more along the terrain, or is that an issue with right of way?
Yeah, that's a great comment. And it would be awesome if you wanted to include that in your formal comments as well. But we did look at alternatives. The existing plan of the 30% plan does have grade separation between the roadway and the pedestrian path. We have a 4-foot shoulder increase, the guardrail, and then again a buffered space before where you get to the let's call it a sidewalk. And so there's about, I want to say about 10 feet of separation is what's in the current plan. And so we did look at that as far as a more of a trail versus a path. One of the things that there was an early plan that was put together, which was very similar to that, made with DG path, railroad ties, pressure treated walls. That I want to say, Kermit, that probably was you were involved with earlier on, and that's just not something that was maintainable by as a county facility, which is where we reimagined this project to look at something that is going to really last the test of time, have very low long-term maintenance cost, and although the construction upfront construction number is going to be a little higher than what it would be to build a more of a trail than a path, this allows for more users, more types of users, and as well as has a much lower cost of long-term maintenance.
Cool. And then one more comment about the grade and bikes and ADA. I have ridden a bike up that hill and it is very tough. And unless you're on an e-bike, the being able to keep enough speed to keep on a straight and a narrow path while passing people would be extremely difficult.
Yep. And just for clarification, the plan is widening the roadway to accommodate for bikes on the road and then providing a pedestrian facility off the road. So this would not be necessarily a shared, e-bikes and regular bikes and people. This is meant to be a path for pedestrians separated from the roadway, and then the cyclists would cycle on the roadway.
Yeah. That being said, though, I don't. The ADA thing I think would be a rough, tough thing to do there.
Yeah, and I'll get back to you on that one. I don't know off the top.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Kermit, did you want to have your hand up?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Just a little history. There was a proposal that I made up that took the stagecoach road right next to the nursery. It's an old stagecoach road. It's a trail and it connects. But one is Cambria would have to maintain that, and because it's out of the right of way. And so anything that wasn't in the right of way was going to be not a private trail, but a different entity than Public Works. So the I'll tell you, the one that's being proposed is far exceeds that, because the other choice was steeper and it got you right in in a bad intersection right next to the hardware store. This one is better. This one is supreme.
Thank you, Kermit. Yeah, I think everybody that's seen this is just like, oh my gosh. So we'll get you comments quickly, and then I think however we can support in that, whether it's letters of recommendation or whatever we can think of creative to just continue trying to go after funding, because this would just be a really big deal for Cambria. So thank you. And thank you for quoting the North Coast area plan. Like you're officially like a unicorn at our meeting. So thank you. All right. If anybody has anything else for Tyler, otherwise, I'm sure we were both taking notes, so we'll just go back and forth on these comments from members and community members, and then we'll I guess we'll vote either over email or whatever on the letter of recommendation, and we'll get that to you. So okay, awesome. Tyler, thank you for being here.
Great. Well, thank you all for your time, and look forward to chatting in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your work on this.
So long.
All right, bye. Okay, you guys, let's see, do I still have Karen engaged? Tell me, can we jump into land use, or do people need a break? You're always
I think we should do the land use.
Okay, cool.
And can I jump in with this? You're going to be asking for a couple of votes. Is that correct?
Yes.
I want to remind people on the NCAC, if you're an alternate and the rep for your area is here, you don't vote. But we have a quorum. Okay, go.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Karen. All right, and then what I need to do is unco-host. Well, Tyler's gone, so that is fine. And let me see. Ian, are you ready for this? Are you ready for us? I'll give you a second. His camera's off, but I'm going to make you a co-host.
Hello, I'm alive.
Hey, hi.
Hi, everybody. Good to be back.
So we are moving on to the Cambria Quarry Mine. Ian's here from Kirk Consulting. You have some things to share. So I think you're co-host. And then, I mean, I feel like for the most NCAC members have kind of been going through this at length. So, so I don't know. Do you want to just go ahead and share what you have prepared, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, that'll be great. So, I don't know if everybody saw my presentation, but the last time I was here was back in November. And so it's been a little time, but we had some of the NCAC members come out to the quarry on Monday, which was really cool. We got some really great feedback from everybody who attended. So thank you for that. And hopefully answered some questions and geared up this recap presentation to everybody's liking. So some of this is going to be just a recap for those of you who may have missed the last hearing. So the project site is located on a pretty large parcel. It's a 942-acre agricultural zone parcel. You can kind of see the existing quarry boundary in this hatching, and then where we're proposing to expand it in this lighter hatching. This quarry has been active since the early 1920s. So this is long before land use permits were required. And then back in the earlier mid 70s, when the State Mining Resource Board was either established or basically permitting historical and or grandfathered in mines, this project was assigned a mine number. So that's why we have a mine number. We do have a reclamation plan and a mine permit, but there is no land use permit that runs with the land. And that just means it's a vested mine, and it's much like a home that was built prior to 1956. You don't have a permit, but it's a grandfathered use. So what this project is doing is, let's see. Oh, well, we can stay here for a second. So the purpose of expanding this mine is because right now it's kind of at its end of its useful life. Our reclamation plan doesn't have a termination date, meaning the mine could essentially be open in perpetuity, but that wouldn't make sense because it is really close to running out of materials. But as we know, there is a really big local demand for materials, especially along Highway 1. So we know Caltrans is in kind of urgent demand for materials. Part of it's now open, but we know that could quickly change, as well as some of these other projects like the Highway 46 East well. And so what we're doing is we're just expanding the boundary of the mine, but we're not expanding it in the operations. So we're not increasing the export of materials. We're not increasing traffic, workload, hours of operation, anything. Everything's staying the same, except for the boundary. And what that'll do is it'll just be able to provide some more materials for these immediate needs for these construction projects. And what's great is that, you know, right now our county doesn't have a lot of these materials. And so what's happening is we're importing these materials from places like the Central Valley or LA. And so we're having a lot more road wear and tear, greenhouse gas emissions, and just more impacts to our community and our roads than if it was a locally sourced. So, and if anybody wants me to go back and recap other things from the last meeting, I can. But what I wanted to focus on this meeting was some more like visual representations and exhibits, as well as like a more detailed analysis or description of our reclamation plan. So I'm sure many of you have not been out there, but here is a very cool picture of the existing mine. So this is kind of what it looks like today. This was taken last year by our biologists. So since then, this area has flattened out a bit. So for those of you who came out last on Monday, it looks slightly different, but otherwise it's materially the same. And when we're looking at the expansion area, I kind of drew it in, and don't criticize my craftsmanship, but it's pretty darn close. And the reason I know it's close is because the rock composition kind of follows this coastal scrub habitat here. This is coyote scrub and chamacel scrub. And as you encroach out of this scrub area, the rock composition underneath the ground kind of goes away. So you have to dig a lot deeper. When we were out on Monday, I believe one of the contractors said you have to kind of you have to dig like 100 feet deep to get to any rock that's usable. And so when we're talking about expanding this mine, not only from like a logistical and feasible standpoint, meaning that once we mine this out, there's no possible way for us to mine any further because there is nothing else to mine. But also as you go in this direction, there's ESHA, which will come up in this presentation quite a bit, but ESHA is environmentally sensitive habitat. And so that can mean a slew of things, but just for an example, that can mean wetlands or pine trees or streams or sensitive plant species. So as you encroach into this area, we do have some ESHA. We have a wetland, we have a pine tree. As you go up on this ridge line, we have pine trees. And so when we were working with our biologists and the Coastal Commission biologists prior to submitting this application, one of the things we were really mindful of was making sure this proposed boundary was in an area that was not impacting any ESHA or sensitive species. Another reason why this mine wouldn't be able to expand is because it's not designated to do so. So this is a mineral resource designations map. You can also find layers on Land Use View, whoever's familiar with that. It's a combining designation. But you can see where our project site is located. It's this little red dot. And so mines or mining extraction is really only proposed in these designated areas. So not only would it not make feasible sense or logistical sense to expand the mine on site because there's no more materials, but it would also be impossible because we're not designated to do so. And so I know that, you know, when we were on site on Monday, we were just talking about, you know, is there any potential for after 30 years the operator comes back in and says, okay, I want to do another 30-year permit. And I would say, no, it's not possible for these reasons. Here is our phase. Oh, yeah.
Ian's being kind because like every 7 minutes I would ask like, but let's just say on the 29th year they want to. So thank you for being.
Well, it's an understandable question because I'm sure that people were wondering when this current mine would end. So it's totally understandable, and I just wanted to provide that reassurance. What we're looking at here is a phasing plan, and I'll show an isometric view of what this will look like in a minute. But when we're talking about mining activities, you start mining at the top and you kind of work your way down. So these are benches, and I'll show what that looks like. So we have 4 phases, each one kind of occurring in a set amount of years, totaling about, I think we're at 28, not 30, but ultimately these are just like the contours of each bench. And then eventually we kind of tie into the existing mine and then we finish out. And so what that looks like, it's a little blurry, but this kind of gives a good idea of what the benching will look like. So this is it, get rid of this, but what's existing today, you can kind of see like there's a ridge line right here. I don't have an existing one, so this is just phase 1. So phase 1, we're working our way from the top. We go phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. And I know when we were on site, there was a lot of questions of what these benches look like. And I thought this was a really good kind of visual of like, what these benches look like. These are 50 feet down, 15 feet out. And then these slopes are 0.5 to 1. And what that translates to is a 63.4 degree angle. So you can see these benches right here, 15 feet, we go down 50 feet, slope 15 feet out. So this is what ultimately our geotechnical engineer and geologist recommended. And that's been peer reviewed by the county geologist. And the main reason for this technique is for safety and making sure there's not rock slides or instability. It is solid rock, so that's why this works. But this was provided to us by the experts, and that is why we're proposing it. And now when we're talking about reclamation, which I'll go into a little bit more, but high level, when we say reclamation, we mean we're bringing back the land to its original state. So right now we have this coyote scrub, we have channel cell scrub, we have some grassland, although we're not really getting into the grassland. The original mine may have had some grassland in that flatter area. And we are required to kind of like almost like backfill this mine. So this is the existing hill. This is what it'll be mined out. And then we're going to come in and fill all this area up with suitable soil that the geologist and geotechnical engineer recommended for stability at a 2 to 1 slope with a 26.6 degree. And I know, speaking to Kermit, we talk about, man, it would be great for this to be like more of a natural landform. And I totally agree. What's tough is that we can't have a geologist go out and say, okay, well, we're going to do a curve here, a bump here, a bump here. But what will happen is that naturally over time, and this could just be a couple of years, that it will naturally, the landform will naturally come together by weather and habitats and species transacting through it. So it will look more natural over time. Ultimately, none of this is going to be visible to anybody in the public. This is all going to be on the interior of the site, and it's not going to be visible from off. I pulled up some kind of just photos of what the scrub habitat looks like. So we really do have this sort of biomap, nice pretty map. This is our boundary, and you can see we're avoiding all these ESHA areas. ESHA here, this is the pine tree. These are some flannel bush chaparral, which is also ESHA. Or these might just be sensitive species, but regardless, we're avoiding it. Some wetland down here, and then a drainage here. So again, when we worked with our coastal biologists, we made sure this was adequately set back. We're still working with them today on that to ensure our boundary is satisfactory to them. And then just showing what the 2 habitat types were. It was really just 2. The chamise, I'm probably butchering that, but you can read it too. And then the coyote scrub. So that's what we're going to be removing, as well as 2 oak trees, 5 oak trees total, which will mitigate with a 4 to 1 ratio on the site. This is a snippet of our revegetation plan that was pulled from our reclamation plan. And I know that plan is probably pretty daunting to most. It's pretty daunting to me. Jeff Oliveira is on the call too, and he could probably speak to it if we need to, but he was the one who prepared it, and it's just very thorough, and there's a lot of information in there. And so sometimes it's hard to digest. So I try to pull out kind of the more, not relevant information, but the information that I thought would be helpful to talk about. And so we do have a pretty, have a revegetation plan that covers it pretty high level. We then have a biologist who prepared a biological resources assessment, which kind of evaluated, what species are there today, what sort of habitat restoration are we going to do as a part of mitigation. And then we have all these plans going to CDFW and the Coastal Commission, and then they're providing comments as well. So I just included like a snippet from CDFW. This was their recommendation. They basically said, hey, the reclamation plan looks good, but we're recommending X, Y, and Z. And that was to restore the coastal and chamise scrub, and to do that by seed collection, seeding, and planting other native species in that area. So that's just kind of high level, the revegetation plan. This is a cool photo of a smaller mine and its ultimate reclaimed state. So this would be kind of the goal. When this was filled in, I bet this looks like an old photo. There's a bobcat, so it can't be too old. But it probably wasn't landformed like this. This probably occurred naturally over. But this is our goal, what we ultimately want it to look like. That concludes my presentation. I do have more slides on visual if anybody wanted to touch on visual, but I just felt like maybe this would be a good stopping point to go over any questions. And then if we wanted, I could dive back into anything else anybody wants to talk about.
All right. Thank you so much, Anne. I'm like, oh, there you go. Jeff Bloom, go ahead.
Thanks, Ian. I think your presentations are excellent, by the way.
Hey, Jeff.
Very clear. In conversation on this, one of the things I think wasn't clear was, so when you take that first layer of soil and debris off, it gets sorted, I assume, and where's it go? I mean, there's a concern about the longevity of the total project, but it seems to me you would take that soil depth until you get to the solid rock and start stockpiling it on the previously mined area. You wouldn't keep hauling it from one location to the next. But I just wanted your comments on that, because I think it might help understand how it proceeds.
Yeah, and so are you talking about like the topsoil that we're not selling as like rock, or are you talking about like just a little? Yeah. So what's great is that the area that's proposed for the mine is the topsoil is actually really shallow, so you don't have to dig very deep to get the rock. It's probably less than a foot, and you're getting to the rock right away. So there is like, man, the machines out there are enormous, and they're so cool because I've always been a tractor kid, and I like tractors. They go in and they sift it all, and they make the separate piles, and they don't just stockpile the dirt there in perpetuity. I'm guessing they export it off site and they sell it as some sort of filled material, because filled material is always needed. But man, the sorting mechanisms out there are so meticulous, and it's so impressive to see how they sort all these different sized rocks, crush it, etc. All the stockpiling is done in the existing mine area, Jeff. So we're not creating any new stockpile areas. We're going to utilize the existing flat area on the site. And we're also pulling all of that back from the existing creek. So we're increasing our setbacks by 30 feet. And we already deploy very stringent, I would say, stormwater pollution prevention measures. And we have annual and or quarterly checkups by the state and the county to make sure all those measures are being
Have you had to work with the state water board on that protection of the creek and the mitigation?
Yeah, so like the original vested mine didn't have to, because a lot of those agencies were never formed. But what the original mine does have to do is comply with the SWIPI, the Stormwater Prevention Pollution Plan, which is monitored by the State Water Board. So yes, we do have annual inspections by them, as well as the State Mining Resource and Geology.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Let's see. Have I talked most people that are on the Zoom's ear off about this project. We have no questions. That means that Ian and I
Whoa.
have done a decent job. Okay, well, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval of the Cambria Quarry Mine expansion with the additional recommendation that elements of the reclamation, landscape improvement, or additional watershed stewardship be implemented earlier in the process, or incrementally during ongoing operations where feasible, including through voluntary stewardship efforts, to kind of inform that a little bit. I know the public feedback that we could work off of, and additionally the feedback from our council, was this expectation that the existing quarry, since it's kind of reaching its conclusion of its life, that would begin to be reclaimed. And now that this new project would happen, new project, right? Obviously, it's an allowable land use, that would be a delay, right? Whether it's 20 years for reclamation or 30 years for reclamation, it's a significant delay. And so our ask is, what can we do sooner, or what could the applicant or landowner do sooner, just as a good faith kind of environmental effort and community effort. So Kermit, I know your hand's up, and so I hope you're going to entertain the motion, but I just want to get that out.
I propose the motion be voted. I agree with the motion.
Okay, well, you have to make the motion. I feel like it's like improper or something for me to make.
I so move we vote on, agree with you that you just said.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on. What
Karen,
is the
you
motion?
want me to read it again? The motion is NCAC recommends approval of the Cambria Quarry Mine expansion with the additional recommendation that elements of reclamation, landscape improvement, or addition. Email it to you?
Yes,
Yeah,
please. Just
okay.
do that. I can't write that fast.
Okay. So essentially what we're saying is we're approving this mine expansion, although it's unfortunate that it will take now decades to see improvements to the original quarry, because that won't have any significant visual or environmental reclamation until this project is coming to the end of its life. That we would like to recommend some things that might be able to be done sooner. And so, yeah, that's that. And I'll email it to you, Karen, but does everybody understand that? I feel like we've all talked about it, but and so we'll go with Brian, your hands up. Do you have something? And Jeff Bloom, your hands up.
I think all we're asking for is that the reclamation be done a little earlier than 28.5 years.
Thank you, Brian. Yes, simply stated. You guys are all very clear tonight. Jeff Bloom, go ahead.
Yeah, so examples of that, Ian, of what we're thinking, I believe is, to the extent you could start barriers so that visually people don't see it as much, or start planting trees earlier along the north edge of the property that would ultimately be planted anyway, that aren't in the way of your fill. And to the extent that there is surplus soil material, that you start, building up that most northeasterly corner, I guess, to start to hide the rest and to start the process. Whether you can complete it is a whole nother matter. And if you're only getting a foot of fill off the top, you're not building up a large reserve. It's going to have to get imported from somewhere. So I recognize that, and we need to keep the road open and all that to operate. But I think just to start the visual barriers and things you can do, things that would protect the creek and the watershed, and help advance the cause of making that improved. as you go along.
Absolutely.
So really some tangible improvements that, work into your overall operation and activity on the site.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. Lisa, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, and I think just on thinking about that timeline, of looking at what can be done in the next 5 years, what can be done in the next decade, rather than, that process waiting, the 30 years, like Brian was saying, and also extending maybe into the broader, very, very close in context, watershed issues in that area.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Lisa. And Lisa, you and Ian and I will connect post this, because I think, of course, there's always exciting, more specific recommendations that we can work through. But I think in general, to move the process forward, we just need to recommend approval or not. So Kermit, if you wouldn't mind again, making a motion, as long as everybody's.
I would propose adding all those good suggestions in. I thought that the time frame would be valuable. I stand with my motion to proceed.
Okay, thank you. And do we have a second?
I'll give a second.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Any negatives? Okay. Thank you guys for that. And yeah, thank you, Ian. And thank you, Jeff Oliveira, for, I know, even your prior presentation. Yeah, and Ian for meeting us on site. It's so helpful for people to just really understand and be able to have honest conversations about like what's happening and how the community feels and what the reality is, and we've all touched on it. There's the thought process of, well, no, you don't recommend approval and and it's like, well, we have to work within what the facts are and what's existing. And so, yeah, I just appreciate working together with you all. So thank you. And then I'll get all of that typed up and out to the county. So
cool. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. And you're always welcome to reach out to me for any updates as we continue to progress. I hope we are going to hearing sometime later this year. So stay tuned, and I hope we stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Bye.
Bye. All right. So Karen, do you want to break and then well, no, I mean, I feel like most of us have gone back and forth about actually, why doesn't somebody from the Cambria Community Healthcare District just shout out and say if you want to break or if you want us to keep moving? All right, maybe they're already on a break.
I'm here, and I'd love to keep going, but I'm waiting for, or I thought I was waiting for more members. So,
do you
certainly
want?
not.
Sorry, I
want to
couldn't
take a
get
second?
myself
Should we?
off of mute.
Hi. Well, do you guys? Yeah. Do you want a second? Do you want 5 minutes and we can do it?
Whatever
I mean, I
you
feel like
guys
we'll be
want. I
pretty
don't
quick.
think we're good either way. I'm pretty sure Lori's on. Yeah, Lori's here. What is your preference?
Why don't we just take 5?
Take 5.
Okay, take 5. I mean, I feel like this will be quick. Let's take 5. We'll do that. We'll keep it moving.
Take a break.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. So you'll have to be really, okay. But this shouldn't take very long once they come back. Yeah.
Christina, did we have county people that needed to present yet? Because I see some names that are county.
We do, yes. And I informed them that prior to the meeting, that this would happen like later in the meeting because we had all this stuff. So, I think we've all kind of gone through the healthcare district, so I think that should be pretty quick. And then, that will be next. So is everybody back from break? And whoever is presenting from the healthcare district, do you want to talk us through anything, or do you want me to present the project? essentially what we're about to review and vote on is the request by the Cambria Community Healthcare District for a minor use coastal development permit to allow for the expansion of an existing ambulance dispatch facility. That's here on Main Street in Cambria, and I know everybody is very excited about this. So go ahead.
So,
Did you, I didn't know if you guys were gonna, did you have something that you wanted to discuss, or do you want us to just keep it moving?
so
Lori,
sorry.
please, or one of our board
Oh,
members.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were there, Nathan. You go right ahead.
Okay, so we didn't draw straws before the meeting, or you can see that.
Oh, we never
However,
do.
so okay, we're learning as we go. Hi everyone, my name is Nathan Reasons. I'm an architect on the project with PBK Architects. We do, as you see, we have some board members from the community Cambria Community Healthcare District. Lori, who just spoke, Don Sather is a volunteer on the board. Camera off. We have Dane Mueller with county. He's our planner. And we have Kathleen Allwine and Barrett Ashby here, our civil engineers that are helping us with the development. And especially as what we really wanted to do is, with the brief introduction you gave us, Christina, I am of the understanding that you are all very familiar with the project. And that we are looking, just developing the plans to replace the very old ambulance station with a new facility, essentially keeping the same number of responsive vehicles, but building this facility around it to support that. And then I think what came up to be a developing question around this is, through our planning review, is determining the frontage improvements, what can actually happen versus kind of some of the standards that get overlaid that we experience compared to what we actually have happening out in the site. So I think I'm about to ready to hand this over to our civil engineer, who does have some exhibits to share. But I'll ask before that: does anyone need a reminder of what the project looks like, or anything to that effect?
And I'm looking through for hands just to make sure. Nope. See,
Okay.
we've done our job. Okay.
Great. Nice
Hand
job.
it over
Appreciate
and let
that.
me know if you want me to share co-host with someone.
It would be Kathleen.
Yeah, if you could share with me.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
So can you guys all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Kathleen Allwine. I work for Ashley Advanced Engineering, and we're doing the civil engineering on the project. And I'm sorry, we prepare engineering drawings, not beautiful architectural renderings. So hopefully this site plan conveys what we want to show. So I think just very generally, this dashed line right here indicates the old station, and this new building right here is what we're proposing. And what we're really trying to draw your attention to right now is what the frontage improvements will look like in front of that new station. And so the frontage that we have proposed right now, if you're looking at the center lane of Main Street in this area, would be an 11-foot travel lane, a 6-foot bike lane, and then a 6-foot sidewalk. And this is a modification from, the full width per county standards, which is often the 12-foot lane, a 6-foot bike lane, 8-foot street parking, and then a sidewalk. And there's a couple interesting, site constraints in this area. And I'm going to just pull over just Google Map really quick. This is the existing, can you guys see the Google Map now? So then this is the existing ambulance station, and we're proposing the new building in this location right here. That'll allow this to stay in service while they're under construction, and then they can move everybody over to the new building and build the parking lot. So we're proposing that in front of the station, we would have the travel lane 11 feet wide, and then the 6 foot wide bike lane, which, you know, there currently isn't a bike lane now, and then a sidewalk, and it would just be in front of the station here. As you can see, there's no really no frontage improvements on either side of the project. So, that was why I was sharing this, sorry, was that I just wanted to point out, it's kind of hard to see in the map, and it might be easier to see in the topo, I'll point it out, but there are power poles located on either side of Main Street in this location. And so it's really hard to widen the street or build out that full section. So if you're looking here, now here back to our picture, you can see there's a power pole here, here, and here. Let me just circle them. Right there, right there, right there. And then there's also on the other side of the street. So we're sort of constrained between these two. And so in order to get that travel lane in, we narrowed it by a foot in this location. And then we have the bike lane. And what we were really hoping to do was keep these power poles out of the bike lane, which would be an obstruction that would kind of really, you know, it would either be a danger to cyclists in that they could hit it, or they'd be veering back into traffic, potentially in an unsafe manner. And so this configuration lets us build the curb line, which is right here. We'll just go right in front of it, and it'll be out of, you know, the travel lane for cars, bikes, and then, you know, we can have that sidewalk be wider behind it so that there's an ADA path of travel that could tie into any future improvements down the road. And
I should note, Kathy, if I can add in here, that this was the exhibit on screen is a result of a review process with Public Works.
Yeah. So if there are questions, I'm happy to explain other parts of the site or some of the considerations that got us to this point.
Okay, looks like Jeff. Oh, wow. I was like, definitely have not done my job. All right, go ahead, Jeff Bloom.
A couple questions, but before I get to those, I really appreciate the effort here. We've had conversations many times at the NCAC about the importance of sidewalks and connecting them to things. And even though there aren't sidewalks on either side right now, doing a project without it pushes all the burden to the county to eventually do that. So it's really important. And I think it's important that our public agencies kind of lead the way at showing that they're doing a complete project, not just what's the easiest necessarily. And I know there's a financial component that's hard to swallow, but important to do. But a couple quick questions I had was, so I'm glad to see the county actually considering alternatives to lane widths and configuration, because there hadn't been much evidence of them doing that in the past to solve problems. So that's a really positive thing. But are you dedicating, I see you're dedicating an area to allow the sidewalk to meander, and I'm assuming that's for ADA because of your driveway approaches that you're having to do that. But are they, if you weren't doing this project for this purpose this way, would there be greater dedication required in their
Yes.
in their standard width?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be the additional 8 feet or so for the parking?
Yeah, I guess it would be depending really on what's needed out there. You know, there are options to the public improvements for um, uh, a number of, you know, widths of travel lanes, different things like that. And so there isn't, you know, it would be this whatever section you're deciding there. I think I didn't look at where that would be with all the different potential options.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, it's obvious along Main Street that they've applied different standards over time for different parts of it. So it's kind of hard to tell what a typical right of way might look like. But I'm glad to see they're working with you. And it really makes little sense to have a lot of parking right by an emergency service entrance. So not having it here isn't, in my mind, much of a problem. And if they decide they want it in front of the adjacent properties, having bay type parking along a street like this isn't a bad thing either, where it's jogs in and out and actually protects the parking more than it does in some of the other areas along Main Street. So I was just curious about the ultimate right of way width, but you know, you've always been fighting on this site the constraint of the hillside behind you and not being able to squish out the back or sides. So
Yeah, that was certainly a component of it as well.
Yeah, the other quick question was on that, I guess it would be the east end, southeast end. Let's see. The corner,
This one?
corner by where your driveway entrance is for the parking.
Yeah.
You have that one pole. Was there any consideration of taking the sidewalk around it from the back and just
Yeah, so that is so this would be the sidewalk here, and you would walk around the driveway entrance, which is sort of a standard ADA layout.
Yeah.
And then we would just make sure to provide, you know, the clearances 4 feet clear from this pole so that, you know, if somebody really wanted to, they could walk this way. But if you were, if you needed more space, this would be your path of travel coming this way. And it's just a little unfortunate that pole falls right in the middle, but that's how we would address that condition.
The pole further to the other side of the driveway, the
right
closest
here
to the property line. Yes. What about was there any look at taking that sidewalk straight behind it? Since it's not going to connect to anything today anyway, and having your terminus ramp just connect a longer distance for now.
We didn't look at that. Would you be saying that there would just be a wider sidewalk in that location,
No,
or would you just say that there'd be like a landscape buffer, kind of like that? Sidewalk would be over here.
Yeah, perhaps. And yeah, so you get a little separation, and it appears that with the property line, the right of way is available to do that. And assuming, you know, we don't have the property line to the next property here, I'm assuming it's similar.
It is here,
Here, can I just jump in really fast because Jeff, like, you know your stuff.
Well, I would just recommend, it's not going to change my suggestion for what you do with this, which is to approve it, but I'm just thinking you should look at that one little spot a little closer and see if there's a better option.
But I guess I'm just saying, like, Jeff, you and I can always connect over the next couple days, and then I can
Yes.
include that and like, hey, and also if you could look at this, look at this, look at this. But
Yeah.
but I think that we're excited about this is huge. And so we're all very excited about that. I just don't want to lose people or have Public Works here till midnight, or SlowCog, sorry, here till midnight to do their thing. So
I
is that
understand.
okay?
I just wanted enough information to.
I know, and you're a saint, and I hate that I always have to rush you
It's okay.
because he's always ends up being right, and so it's an unfortunate relationship that we have. But we can go through it and we can all connect. I think that the underlying thing, and I know that Jeff and I are in agreement about this, is just like, yay, like, and thank you guys. Yeah, so. Let me see if I have to scroll. No, Brian, and then Jeff, did I cut you off or you're good and we can do that? Okay. Brian, do you want to go ahead? Your hand's up.
Yes, I just have this may be an unrelated question, but I'm on the bond oversight committee for the community for the ambulance facility. And as far as I know, the sidewalks were not a part of the original bond measure. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so where is the funding for this going to come
I
from?
can jump in here, Brian, because that's the problem with a public project that's financed by a bond is that you kind of jump out in front and assume you have a budget. In my understanding from Lori, and Lori can correct me if I'm wrong, we also put that number out there fairly early in the project. So our current contractors have indicated that the project is designed fits within the bonds. I might have told people this later, and we didn't go huge out to the public, but we did receive a very generous grant from the Hearst Family Foundation to support potential overages on the projects. We have a little extra money from the Hearst family, which we're super grateful for, but no, we're good.
So the answer to my question is it's within budget.
We are okay. Yes, we are
Okay.
within our budget.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
We think.
Thank you.
Boy, you don't want to go too far out on a limb with a question like that.
Going through continuous pricing exercises. But
Yes,
we have been keeping it in budget, and we're due for a new exercise coming up soon.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lisa, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Yeah. And just first, fantastic. Totally on board with us. Great job. I'm wondering if there's any thought about undergrounding the power rather than having to deal with the power poles in an area where, you have emergency vehicles coming and going and traffic and stuff, if that would be a safer way to do it, or if it's just exorbitantly too expensive.
Yeah, that's not part of the bond. Yeah.
Is it wildly expensive to underground power?
It is. It's a cost concern is why we have the current approach.
Okay.
That's true.
That's it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I think that's the world we're living in. Otherwise, like, who wants to look at power lines or risk a fire? Kermit, you want to go ahead?
I just wanted to make a statement that the sidewalk issues are pretty big in Cambria because of the lack of space. And on this road, we have a sidewalk on the south side, and the issue to me is not so much somebody, and I'd say our city planner agency is the county. We need to make a sidewalk plan. It may be better to go 12 foot on one side and leave the other side there because you don't have the hill slope. This just another sidewalk issue because we don't have a clear plan to just get a sidewalk on one side. That's all I have. And
Yeah, no, thank you, Kermit. And I don't know if you guys want to speak to that, but I think that, yeah, everybody's kind of on the same page about that. Like, it's difficult from a community member perspective, but also an NCAC perspective to have to look at projects one-on-one and try to, stay true to the area plans and the intention and the safety and the yada yada, and then also have no clear plan from the county in terms of like what the future of Main Street should be working towards.
I agree with that, Christine.
It's so weird. I'm like,
You
so
end up with the sidewalk, where on either side, but
yes, no, and I pick up my Tally Farms box off Wood Drive, and it's a neighborhood, and then it's all sidewalks to nowhere. Like, so it'll be like sidewalk hill, and then, like you're like, oh, okay, well, this is amazing. I guess
Is there a master plan here? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we're all in agreement about that, and I know that, yeah, Jim, our new Blake chief of staff is on, and so hopefully, in our final year with Bruce, that's something that we can kind of push towards getting some clarification on, because
Yeah, and by the way, we're just super appreciative of the county's partnership with us and Bruce and the staff and Public Works, because there were some issues to work through, but everybody's been terrific.
yes, and I think it's more than Cambria. It's like everybody, I think all these little communities just really wanted to know, like, how do we plan for and approve for and design for the future of these, like, especially downtown spaces or, children's spaces. And so, yeah, so that being said, this is huge. You guys are setting like the most incredible example. I feel like you're literally just creating the future of Main Street and saving lives. So thank you. I don't see any other hands. Oh my gosh. So with the drama, I guess I would entertain a motion to approve this, and and this will go in the notes. So much thanks. Yeah, thanks for setting this example. Kermit, go ahead.
I make a motion, we approve with
So much thanks. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Jeff.
Jeff Bloom, thank you. And I know there's no negatives, but I'll ask, any negatives? All right. Thank you guys so much. I'm just in awe that you pulled this together. And yeah, I think this is such a great example. And I do want to thank Dane for being the most like calm, amazing liaison on earth, and just, yeah, shepherding all of us the right direction. So thank you. Anything else anybody wants to say on this? And Dane, so yes, okay, every healthcare district, if you want to go, I know you've been here forever, and architects and engineering team, feel free to go. And Dane, you tell us if you have anything you want to share randomly, or we're going to move on to SlowCog.
Nothing too much to add for this month. I always appreciate the opportunity to be here, Chair Galloway. So thank you for that. And this is obviously an exciting project for everyone. Ambulance dispatch isn't something you're hopefully using every day, but come the time when you need an ambulance, it's going to be exciting to have this project. So we look forward to. I know the applicant team is looking forward to getting to building permits, and I am too. So with that, I'll say goodbye. And thank you to everyone
you, Dane.
and the
Hopefully
applicant team on this one too.
All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Oh,
Thank
sorry,
you.
I'll add. I'm also always open to emails and questions. I know, we were blessed to have 2 applicant teams come join us today and give awesome presentations. That's not always the case. So if anyone ever has questions about other projects going on in Cambria, I can push you in the right direction.
Thank you, Dane. This is like just a very exciting chapter for us. So, all right, let's all get off my excitement. No, I won't, because SlowCog. Okay, local roads first. Tell us, thank you for sticking with us. And let me see, do you want to become let me close this out, a co-host, or
I think I can share my screen. Let's see if this works.
okay, perfect.
That worked. Now let's get to the presentation slides. One more click. Here we go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Good deal. All right. Great. Thanks for having me here today. I'm James Worthley, Deputy Director of the San Luis Obispo Council of Governments. Now, SLOCOG, as you heard probably 6 months ago if you were at the meeting, is a regional transportation planning agency. We work with our 7 cities, our unincorporated county. We work with Caltrans as well as the bus systems. We have a 12-member board, all elected officials with Supervisor Gibson sitting on our board. And our aim is to plan and fund transportation improvements that our communities and cities need. But funds from these federal and state governments are falling short. You might be wondering, why am I showing pictures of 101? I will get there. Needs are growing for 101, funds are not. The corridors continue to congest. 25 years ago, neighborhoods along 227 didn't care that 101 was starting to congest along the South County. Now, that congestion has bled over onto 227. North County 101 is now congesting. Eventually, that congestion is going to bleed over onto Highway 1. Probably not north of 46-1, but up to that intersection likely. Around the region, there's also needs for road repairs, safe routes to school, public transit, more. It all comes down to funding. Formula funds that SLOCOG receives, and we program it every 2 years in our Transportation Improvement Program, or STIP. They've dropped by half over the last 8 years, but our neighboring Central Coast counties, our sister agencies, they also receive these same formula allocations, also dropped by half, but they've found a way to address their transportation needs through a transportation-specific sales tax that far surpasses that of their formula funds. Had we had a half-cent sales tax, that zero on the right-hand corner would have been $35 million in 2024 alone. There we go. So in the Central Coast, Santa Cruz, Monterey, San Benito, Santa Barbara, they all collect this tax. Over the last decade, they've taken it, they've doubled it. They've nearly some have nearly tripled it by using their funds as matching funds to leverage state competitive grant funds. They're funding their needed transportation improvements, investing $500 million to over $1 billion just in the last 10 years. In comparison, our region's basically lost out on $600 to $700 million because we don't have that same sales tax to do our transportation improvements. Over the last 6, 7, 8, and 9 months now, we've been building a new draft plan through engagement, through listening, through public workshops, focus groups, phone polls, meetings like yours, topic-specific groups with city managers as well as transit providers, and input through our localroadsfirst.com website. What we've heard, some major takeaways, is flexibility is key. The priorities from one city to one community to another city to another community, they all differ. And they should have the flexibility to decide what's most important to them. Everybody's looking for that guarantee of let's make sure this is spent appropriately. A measure like this can only go for transportation, and the assurance is the dollars will benefit them somehow, some way. They're coming back to them, not to a spot that they may not see any benefit from. So now we can dig into the draft plan. The draft plan in your packet was dated 11/20/2025. Just today, we had a advisory committee meetings where they received the latest draft plan dated just last Friday, January 16, 2026. There were a couple changes, but we'll go through and I'll note what those changes are. And they're not changes yet until this LOCOG board says yes. So a half-cent sales tax over 30 years starts off generating $35 million a year. That $35 million actually relates to 2024. Each year it seems to go up, but we need to use some number to show what each community might receive, what it would look like. 55% of this goes for local choice, local preference. The locals will decide where this goes. So 55%, $19 million is divvied up based on population to each jurisdiction. Each governing board then sets its own priorities. They decide what's most important to them with public input every 2 years in their capital improvement program. Again, it must only be for transportation. Now, the next big pot is 40%. 40% of the funds go to SLOCOG to determine for regional corridor improvements. Every 2 years, a plan identifying the top priorities would be approved by SLOCOG, again, with public involvement. One major change from prior plans is the provision of subregions. Instead of one big pot for SLOCOG to decide where it goes, and the possibility of all the money going into one subregion without anything going anywhere else, we identified the subregions, and based on population, we identified how much each subregion would get, assuring that a fair share goes to each one of these, again, based on population. And again, adding the flexibility that if interchanges are the biggest thing in one area, that doesn't have to be the biggest thing in another area. It could be something else. Okay, so here's how it breaks down by jurisdictions. You take the $35 million, you run through the population filters, and this is what you end up with. The top half, 55%, split among the 8 jurisdictions. The 40% then is split among the 4 subregions, each subregion getting its fair share of population funds. 4% remains for mobility improvements for seniors, disabled, veterans, like, and 1% maximum can go to SLOCOG administration to oversee the program, to produce the budgets, the allocations, the biennial implementation plans, prioritizations, et cetera, and more, and an oversight committee. Now, I want to focus real quick on one change here that is being suggested and recommended in the next plan that isn't shown here at all, and maybe even get feedback from you. Right now, the unincorporated dollars under that local road repair category, right in the middle of the page, almost $8.5 million that would go to the supervisors to decide where it goes. I've met with Templeton, Oceano, Avila Beach committees like yours, and each one of them, including the city of Paso Robles, but put them to decide, identified that that does not necessarily provide enough assurance to the unincorporated populations that we would hope would vote and support this. Each one suggested maybe it needs to be divided up into something more tangible. They can see it's coming back to their area. As a single pot, that means Cambria competes with Nipomo, and it competes with Templeton, and it competes with Avila Beach. Everybody competes against everybody else. So the suggestion and the takeaway that we've had that we're now working into our next draft is that it splits up equally among these 5 supervisorial districts. That way, Cambria still has to compete, but you compete with Cayucas, you compete with Los Osos. You do not compete with Templeton or Nipomo. So that way, it provides more assurance, and you have one person to contact rather than hoping you can get enough votes on the supervisor board to get the funds in your area. Your supervisor will be working with your committee, identifying what's most important to you, and then taking that back and identifying what the most important priorities for the North Coast are. Sometimes it's going to be yours. Sometimes it might be Cayucas. Sometimes it might be Los Osos. That's not my decision to make. Okay.
James, can I interrupt you really fast?
You bet.
That was a lot, very helpful, but a lot to take in. And then just to clarify, like, your understanding of like competing is, I guess, I had a conversation recently where like I was thinking of like contributions in terms of, Cambria's unincorporated contributions, but then I realized like the other person was looking at like population size and how that is a different type of contribution based off of, right, like property taxes and all these things. And so from a SLOCOG perspective or a county perspective, like, because sure, Cambria can say like, we're important all day long, but if we have 3,000 to 5,000 people here, max on any given day, like, what does that competition look like? Like, am I in riding a bike and somebody's on a scooter, or what's happening?
So when I say competition, I guess I'm saying there's always limited dollars to improve for transportation improvements. And no matter whether it's $35 million a year or when we get to $40 million a year, there's going to be more demands than what comes in each year. So we can only fund what we get funds for. Right now, we're seeing $3.1 million for SLOCOG to fund. This provides $35 million a year to fund. We can do a lot more, but there still will likely be more demands than what our dollars can meet. Does that answer your question? And then when you talk about, I think where you're going was
like prioritization, like how do you get prioritized as a community with 3,000 people when human logic would say we're going to prioritize the community with 16,000. So like it'd be great, like District 2, but there's a big difference between like Cambria and Los Osos, right?
Right, absolutely. And part of it is projects that projects take time to develop. You know this with Burden Drive. If Los Osos' #1 project is 5 years out, maybe sitting on the funds and letting them accumulate until that 5th year, because that might be their #1 project, isn't the best choice when a Cambria project could use $1 million to get the project done the first year. So prioritization doesn't have to be who has the most people, who has the best project, who's ready to go, who has the best bang for the buck, really.
Yeah.
And it's not just, Cambria's not just out of that unincorporated pot. You would also be potentially buying for the regional corridor improvements as well.
Yeah.
Because those do not just go to Highway 101 by any means.
Yes. And just to be clear, like we're really excited about this. It's just like we have, you know, the most we've gotten in the pipeline is really this, what you saw tonight with Burton Drive. And so just, yeah, because I think it's also like who has projects in the pipeline and we just don't really, but anyways, we're excited about it. So I don't want my
Part
question.
of that's what's written in here, and that's the next slide here.
Okay, but wait, really quick, Jeff Bloom, is there something related to that slide, or you want to let him keep going and then we'll, oh, but you're muted.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. Before you leave that, a couple thoughts for our group to think about is one is if, and I understand why the city managers all wanted more flexibility, because for starters, Cambria doesn't have any way to design a project to the 30% like we saw in Burton by ourselves. Somebody at the county has to decide to do that. So getting a project off the ground requires money that we don't independently have available to us. The second thing to think about is that if you try to divide it totally by population or an annual formula, nothing will get done because these projects are individually too expensive. So what you'd wind up with is a bunch of little minimalist type projects that really don't benefit anybody, but just get the money spent. So we want some way to be able to wait for our turn, but have somebody in the background designing it so that when it is our turn, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
So there needs to be some kind of planning money set aside out of this to get those projects teed up for the individual communities. And it's not a problem for the cities because they can decide to dip into their general fund or do whatever they want to do to get the money. But for the unincorporated communities, we don't have that opportunity.
These funds can also be used for project development to get the project ready.
Right.
So if county staff needs funds to advance your project, these can get the project advanced. These can also fund the project through construction, or they can be used to leverage additional funds, state, federal, or regional funds for construction.
So if we leave it completely unset in the plan, then the Board of Supervisors is going to decide whose projects get set up and ready to go. If we do it by district, well, then we've got to hope that there's some equity in how our individual supervisor decides to spend some money to get the projects ready.
If it's in one pot, you have to hope that all five or the majority of the supervisors also prioritize Cambria as well.
Right.
Somehow. So I trust the one closest to me.
Absolutely.
It's easier to work with one than to work with many.
Yeah.
And 44%, as reflected in this, 44% of people live in the unincorporated areas. Only 56% live in cities. So
yeah, I would highly recommend there be some project planning component to it, so that it doesn't all get spent on a one big capital project and nothing's left to start anybody else's projects.
Agreed. I think you're on the right track here. But let's keep going through the presentation, because I think there's a little bit more information here, especially for the CACs. Twice per 2 years. So every 2 years, there's a programming cycle. And within the plan, within the requirements of this plan, is that you receive presentations twice per programming cycle to identify what's funded and what might be funded. I'm aiming for you to give feedback as a committee through the public process to your supervisor. What's on the top of your list? What's second? What's third? Los Osos would do the same thing. Cayucas would do the same thing. And at that point in time, yes, if you divide that amount into 3, now it becomes very little. But who's ready to go? Might be the first question. Or who's ready to use year 1 monies or year 2 monies? Or do we need to collect a few more years worth in order to do something in the North Coast? But you only have to compete with those other really 2 communities. You could throw San Simeon in there, but that's a 4th one. But we know where the bulk of the population lives and the bulk of the needs are. So you create that priority list. Is it road repairs? Is it safety improvements? Is it safe routes to school? Is it bird and drive path? I don't want to tell you. It's not up to me to decide. It's up to your supervisor then to take your messaging and go back to the board of supervisors and say, here's what is the best plan for my district for those local repair dollars. And then those dollars get commingled in eventually with the SLOCOG dollars for the regional pot. And there's a potential that Burton Drive is on our RTP. It has been identified as a regional project. It could compete for regional dollars as well. But we need to find funds before we can get there. Otherwise, it sits on the list as maybe one day we'll find funds for this. There's also a citizens oversight committee that would be formed to oversee how these monies are spent and that they're spent appropriately, with 5 citizens on the committee coming from the unincorporated areas, 1 from the North Coast Supervisor District. Before spending, there's safeguards to assure that nothing is going to be spent incorrectly. After spending, there's audits and reporting to assure nothing was spent incorrectly. These funds are to augment transportation funds, and that means there would be a maintenance of effort that the county can't just pull the funds out from their general fund that they have been spending for transportation improvements and replace them with this. So more money in the pot means more opportunities to get the projects funded. Oversight and guarantees we've identified, and then I already mentioned independent annual audit to assure, again, that everything was spent as promised to the voters if it's passed. What's the cost? The cost, remember, there's no tax on housing, on prescription medicine, on services, on groceries, or utilities. You don't pay a tax every time you pay your phone bill, but if you go buy a new phone, yes, there's a tax. On a $1,000 cell phone, that would be a $5 tax added on. Lastly, here we are in the next steps. So we finished reviewing it all with the 7 cities. We still have to go to the Board of Supervisors for their review and comment on the 27th to identify. One of the biggest wrinkles I'm finding is a single pot or multiple pots for the supervisors in that local road category. We go to Napomo tomorrow night, as well as Los Osos, to hear what they have to say as well. Then we go back to the SLOCOG board on February 4th. If everything moves forward from there, We go back to the 7 cities and the county seeking approvals from each of those agencies. Ideally, all agencies would support it. Moving forward to the April 1st SLOCOG board, which at that point in time, they would weigh in, should it go forward or not to the voters before the voters would have a chance. A SLOCOG measure requires 2/3 to pass. In 2016, if you recall, it failed by about 450 votes. 66.3% is where we landed. This is the first opportunity we've had to get back on the ballot realistically in 10 years. So that's where we are right now. That is the presentation, but I know there's typically a lot of questions.
No, I think we threw them at you in the middle.
That's okay.
Kermit, did you have something? I know you had your hand up, or did he answer it?
I was just gonna see if John, transportation will cover some of the questions that Jeff had in my presentation. I'll see what else follows here.
Okay, so let me just scroll through and make sure I'm not missing anybody. All right. So no, I mean, I think you're good, James. Like, obviously we'll go back just, on our own emails and see if there's any constructive, like, whatever, 5 things that we can pass along to you. But yeah, I mean, amazing presentation. I think we know what our concerns are, like, kind of in our gut, right? Just kind of being this little unincorporated community that was at the end of a roadblocked highway. And so we'll gather amongst ourselves and get some notes over to you. But
okay,
thank you, like,
sounds great
for this. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's see. CCSD liaison report. I know Harry was here. I realize it's like midnight. Is he still here? I don't. Oh, there you are, Harry. Hi. Do you have something for us?
I do, and hopefully I'm going to read my notes as best I can. Hopefully this will take about 5-6 minutes.
Okay.
But Mr. Worthy, I just want to comment on Mr. Worthy's presentation with regard to, congestion on Highway 101 and how it's bleeding over onto 227. I moved to this county in February of 1979. There were 95,000 people in the county at that time. Highway 1 was only 2 lanes from the border with Santa Barbara County heading north. And there was never any congestion, even during so-called rush hour. Times have really changed.
Yeah, that's for certain. I don't know. The rate they're building, I'm like, where are all these people going? There's 2 lanes. So we're all with you, Harry. All right. Well, thank you for being here and give us what we've missed at the CCSD.
Well, that's funny that you say it that way. So thank you, Chair Galloway. So just going to give you some of the basic items here that the board dealt with on our January 8th board meeting. So the board listened to a very informative, enthusiastic, and by the way, I'm reading my notes, and well-organized presentation from Juliana Wilkie and Catherine Aguilar from People Self-Help Housing regarding their request, once again, to extend their intent to serve letter for the Cambria Pines Affordable Housing Unit on Schoolhouse Lane. Now, this project was first brought to the board back in 2013, and essentially, basically 18-month to 2-year extensions have been regularly granted since then, while People Self-Help Housing deals with the financial challenges they have and various permitting issues. So for the most hopeful thing that took place during this presentation was that People Self-Help Housing anticipates the project finally being initiated in December of this year. And that's a really great thing. So as a result, like I said, we normally grant 18 months to 2-year extensions. This time we granted a 3-year extension to People Self-Help Housing. And that's for this project, a 33 apartment units project for low and low middle income families and individuals that's going to be over on Schoolhouse Lane. This project is basically going to cost $37 million, but let's keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best, because obviously we have a serious need for housing, especially for low income and low middle income families in our community and individuals. The board also approved an all-encompassing labor agreement with the Cambria Firefighters Local 4635. Obviously, General Manager McEnany is here. He can answer any questions on this particular item. The board and staff discussed the upcoming strategic planning workshop. It's going to be a special meeting taking place on Monday, March the 2nd. We'll be taking public comment in person and written public comment at our on this topic at our regular board meeting on Thursday, February the 12th. We're hoping to get feedback and input from members of the community on these important issues the district has on the horizon regarding our goals and objectives that we need to achieve. Also, we'll be taking public comment at the strategic planning meeting on Monday, March the 2nd. That will only be at the beginning of the meeting, not during the meeting. So we've chosen Vice President Dean and former board president Deborah Scott as the ad hoc committee that's going to help prepare the structure of the workshop. And we've also chosen Cambria Community Council President Dick Clark as our facilitator. Also want to provide an update on the location. This discussion of our strategic planning has always been at the Veterans Hall. However, the Veterans Hall is going to be tied up all week of March the 2nd. So this special meeting is going to take place at the fire station on Burton Drive. We filled a vacant seat on the Finance Committee, which has been there for roughly 6 months. The board chose applicant of roughly 50-year resident of Cambria, Jerry Main. So he's going to complete the 5-member Finance Committee. We also discussed the Climate Action, Climate Adaptation Plan, including pointing out actions that have already been taken by the district and board to address various environmental challenges that we have, including the district having more and more electric vehicles for the district, lowering electricity usage at the wastewater plant, and also eliminating the printing of our board meetings, monthly agendas by using iPads. So that's a good thing. We also discussed challenges on the horizon, from aging infrastructure, wildfire protection, to sea level rise. The ad hoc committee of Director Thomas and myself, as well as staff, we made every effort to locate other special districts throughout the state of California to see if any of them have developed a climate action plan, and no one has done so. So we'll be the first ones to do that. Director Thomas provided a very extensive and well-researched overview of what a climate action, climate adaptation plan would be, what it could accomplish. We've received useful feedback from other board members, especially Director Gray. So we didn't take any action with regard to approving anything, however, to adopt the plan, but staff was encouraged to seek out grant funding to pursue potential opportunities in this area. And then finally, the board adopted an updated and amended 2026 CCSD Municipal Code, as well as the 2025 California State Fire Code and the 2024 International Wildlife Urban Interface Code, which basically sets standards for building in areas where human development meets the natural environment with a focus on fire safety. That's it.
Thank you, Harry. That was it. very good recap. We have Ted Key with a question for you.
It's not really a question, Harry. I just want to thank you very much. You know that the climate adaptation plan and all of that originated from the policy committee and basically me pushing it along. So I'm very, very pleased to see that you guys are moving forward with that. And I think it's going to be really, really a feather in our cap to be the first people to really do a climate adaptation plan on the lines of what you guys are talking about here. And so kudos to you for moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Ted, excuse me. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Ted, and thank you, Harry. And yeah, thank you and the board for extending that will serve for the affordable housing project. If anybody who is not aware, I think watch that meeting because you can really gain a lot of insight onto that project and what the roadblocks have been and kind of why it's at where it's at. It was a really good conversation. So
if I could just mention, it happens relatively early in the meeting. Obviously, if you go to slow span or whatever, you can just go right to that. The presentation was about from the two young ladies was about 25 minutes long, and it was very, very well done. And I think it's just helpful to see it with regard to, well, people's self-help housing. They did a great job.
yeah. All right. Thank you, Harry. If that's all, we will move over to our general manager. There you are. All right, go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, President Farmer did a good job there. Some of the reasons that we're moving the strategic planning meeting is because we have several upgrades actually occurring with the Veterans Hall, thanks to some funding from the Tourism Board and a budget adjustment from the Board of Directors. So they're going to be refinishing the floors, and then shortly thereafter, we'll see some painting being done. And Chair Galloway and a couple of our directors and some representatives from the Legion were actually at the Vets Hall today picking out color schemes. And you should all be very thankful that a meathead like myself did not pick out those colors. So they did a great job. And I'm looking forward to that, some of those upgrades at the Vets Hall. So that's kind of the reason why we're doing some shift in meeting locations. Other than that, I just have a few updates as far as some infrastructure projects. Our Stewart Street tanks are moving along on track. So if you guys remember, we we have two tanks over 1.75 million gallons worth of water. We took one of those tanks offline to have it rebuilt. That tank is going to be commissioned and back in service in 30 days. And then we start the process of starting the rehabilitation of the second tank. And that will be completed in August. A lot of the noise disturbance that the residents around that area have been experiencing will end tonight. And then as we transition into the second tank over the next 6 months, you'll see an uptick in noise and disturbance. And it's unfortunately, it's just a part of the job and what we have to do to get those tanks rehabilitated. But that project will be complete, both tanks, both in service, hopefully by August. The SST project was our wastewater system upgrades. Those are a little behind because of the weather, and we have to do a final PG&E inspection. We were hoping for first quarter 2026, but that looks like it's being pushed back into the second quarter. So we should see both the SST project and the Stewart Street tanks, which have been two projects totaling $14 million that have been a 5-year plus CIP project that have had many delays, will be completed in 2026. So that's a huge accomplishment for the district. WRF, very popular subject. That is confirmed. We met with the planning department last week, and it is on the agenda for February 26th, the Planning Commission, for our first hearing on the permanent permitting for a coastal development permit for the water reclamation facility, which is 11, 12 years in the making. And so our team has done a great job about moving that project forward and following the board's directive to eventually get a permanent coastal development permit to permanently certify this plant to enhance our water sustainability portfolio. And lastly, zero liquid discharge. That project has been completed. We've had phenomenal results in terms of what the apparatus can do in terms of 98% recovery of water from the brine that is produced from the water reclamation facility. And we're waiting on a report to tell us, A, how much the capital cost will be, and an estimate of the operational costs moving forward. And that we're anticipating that in the next 30 days. That'll go to the Resources and Infrastructure Committee and then eventually to the board for full disclosure, and we'll take a look at what that will cost. And with that, I'm open to any questions.
Karen has a question for you. Go ahead.
Hi,
Are you
Matt.
singing
Thank
to me?
you.
Is that Karen?
I missed the date or the month of the hearing on the WRF that's coming up.
Our first Planning Commission hearing is February 26th.
February. Thank you. Thank you.
You got it.
I know you probably felt like you misheard. It's happening.
Yeah.
Ted, do you want to go ahead? You're muted.
Yeah, thanks. I'm muted. Just a couple things. One, Matthew, thank you so much for what you're doing down there in front of the waste treatment plant. I'm sure that there were other reasons than just beautification, but having traveled that corner for 10 years, passing that, well, not very good looking area, I can see that that's really coming along nicely. So thank you very much for that. Also, as a friend of GWI and sort of the instigator of this whole pilot project in Cambria, I am absolutely thrilled to hear you tell me that you are in the process of looking at bids for a very successful project. So I think that this is going to be absolutely transformative for our community for sure. So looking forward to that. And I had one more thing, but I can't remember what it was. So anyway, thanks again, Matthew, for all you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Ted. And Ted brought up something that I didn't actually announce. So if you weren't paying attention to the board meeting a couple months ago, we actually did a budget adjustment for some landscaping in front of the wastewater treatment plant. So that whole frontage road in front of the wastewater treatment plant was very overgrown, and as Ted acknowledged, not very sightly. And so we had Ecotones come through, and they've done a fantastic job of cleaning that up. And there's a nice area of vegetation and rock formations. And we may actually put out a concrete sign that says, Cambria Wastewater Treatment Plant, which will tie in nicely to the SST project finishing. Yeah, it's come along, and we've come a long way. So I appreciate that.
I did remember what I was going to say. You were talking about the renovations to the Vets Hall. Is the roof included in that? Because the reason I ask is, of course, you're talking about, with the city's climate action plan, possibly adding more stations for electrical cars, and I'm assuming that you will want to do that somewhere around the vet center. So, again, my big question is, are you doing the roof? Can we put solar up there to help? Basically earn more money on that adventure and do good at the same time. I guess that's my last question. Thanks.
No, that's a good question, actually. Yeah. So we have several different things that we're doing with the Vets Hall. One of them is fixing a portion of the roof of the Veterans Hall, which has been budgeted. That work is actually slated to begin mid-February, and that will be completed. There's several other upgrades that we're looking at the Veterans Hall. One of them is the kitchen, bathrooms, and things of that nature. We're working with several 501c3 groups that have come to the district saying that they're looking to contribute to signature projects. The caveat is they want to see some movement from the CCSD side. So that is why we're pushing pretty quickly on the some of our minor renovations of the Vets Hall, which again, Chair Galloway and some of our board members and staff have picked paint schemes, and you're going to see some major changes to the Vets Hall. And that's hope not only to do it, but to actually show some of these 501c3 groups that were serious, and when you may see some renovations to the restrooms, to the kitchen. To your question about solar, it's a difficult answer because we are looking at the return on investment. So, it's a board discussion because sometimes the ROI doesn't matter as much as if we look at it from the climate adaptation portion. So the board, if we do bring that forward, I don't think it's going to be a cost savings as much because of our climate and the amount of sun we get in that area. The offset may not be there in terms of ROI, but if you take a look at it in terms of climate offset, that may be something the board says, you know what, we're willing to sacrifice some of that ROI for this climate offset. So we are looking at that piece, and that may come forward. We just have several things that we have to do to the vets hall to even make it suitable for that solar piece. And then we are looking at DC fast chargers. But there's some complications because in that footprint of where the farmers market is where some of those DC fast chargers are going to go. And then, there's some give and take in terms of our farmers market and what we'll have to do there. But yeah, we're looking at it, Ted. Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to point out, take a look at Harmony Systems. They have a wind system that may prove to be more cost effective and more energy generation for that project and less disturbance, less roof disturbance. But you can take a look at that. We can talk about that some other time. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Mitch. Thanks.
You got it.
All right. I don't see any other questions, comments? No, thank you. Thanks, Ted, for that. And Matthew, thanks for your getting us up to speed. And for sticking this out. I know it's late, so I don't know if Cecilia's still here. I assume if she had something to share with us.
I'm here, but I'm not going to extend this meeting by giving a report per se.
Okay, but is there anything, I don't want to keep you from telling us anything important. You're good?
No, we just really, really appreciate all the support for our construction project. As Chief Berkeley was saying, December was an exceptionally busy month. I don't know what really, because the road wasn't open then, but of course the market was going. But yeah, we had a good 30% more calls than we usually do. So it was really busy.
Interesting.
So hopefully everybody stays safe out there.
Yes. Thank you, Cecilia. Yeah, congratulations and just thank you. We're so excited.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, then Kermit, I think you mentioned something, but are you still here or do you still want to share something?
No, I want to say something.
Okay, go ahead.
Has to do with the transportation of projects that are being proposed. Let's put it this way. We just saw the SLOCOG presentation of you need to have planning. You have to have projects before you can get money to stuff into the planning thing. So in competition in there, we really haven't had much. Burton Circle comes up. The only other previous ones were just emergency services having to do with Santa Rosa Creek Road, which is where a lot of our Cambria money went, and probably will in the future as well. But far as Highway 1, Caltrans has granted money for a study from Highway 46 one intersection to 12 miles north, which is just a little ways north of San Simeon. And out of this, it's the transportation, public safety, climate study, and animal conflicts, deer, stuff like that. So we just met and went through proposals by the small committee. I was one, and Caltrans one, and one from the county, one from SLOCOG. So that was just reviewed proposals by 12 consultants. 3 were selected, had gone through the process, and one was will proposed here shortly by SLOCOG in some meetings in February. So, but the important part of this is just like Cambria Drive, it's a project we can look for money for. And the other ones will be public, all the crossings in the 4 to 5 crossings in Cambria, across the highway, public safety, the road, the road itself, and most important, San Simeon is in the project area, and their concern is lighting and so forth. So it's crossing the highway. Again, the project is described by the as a highway, which is a connectivity in one direction, and meanwhile other services are coming in from the other sides, both sides, for crossing the road. We're going to result in a lot of proposals for studies coming out of those for future funding. So we will have, and this is a long-term plan, but you have to have a plan before you get projects recognized. Then when you get projects recognized, it's prioritized, but that's how it goes. So this is the start. That's all I need to say, 'cause that's what it is, but it comes in nicely. Still the 1% is a big deal, because once you have projects proposed that can get funded, you better have money for them to proceed. Jeff, you got a question?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, just a couple thoughts along that line, Kermit. One is, if we really want to ever see the improvement along Main Street, they really need to do a corridor plan that analyzes intersections and traffic control and the sidewalks, and then out of that would come projects to finish gaps and to do things in a better way. It looks like somewhere in the past, you see a few decorative street lamps out there, but not a lot of them. It's not like they got implemented with every new project, but normally a well-done project would have a lighting plan that includes the missing lights and the styles and street furniture for pedestrians. So basically a comprehensive plan of Main Street. It deserves it as an important commercial area. And I think we should, that would be one topic to take up also for the tourism monies that come in, to help with that planning effort to do a better job of a Main Street improvement. Because it'll cost millions of dollars to do it comprehensively, but it would stop the piecemealing that we're having to deal with right now if there was some form of a comprehensive plan. The other thing to note is we ought to explore at some meeting with Supervisor Gibson the county's use of Rule 20A funds. What those are is the utility companies have to set aside a certain increment of the money they receive in all of our electric bills for undergrounding. And that's one of the ways you could have taken care of the problem with the health districts, poles in the middle of sidewalks, and normally those are multi-million-dollar projects that are designed and then funded from that fund by the utilities. So it's something they have to set aside, and I just have no clue how the county chooses to use that money. But it'd be worth, for Main Street at least, it'd be worth looking into. So just a couple things to think about for future projects.
Yeah, I agree. This one doesn't cut it because it's not right directly to Highway 1.
No.
And Caltrans interested in that, and they don't control the Main Street, I don't believe anymore. I think it's a county project. I think that's a talking point with where did he go? He disappeared.
Was it me?
Yeah, Jim. Dantona.
Oh yeah, is Jen still on?
That's so. Yeah. I'm going to defer that Jeff Bloom's question to Jim entirely, and my transportation report is done because I got one more to say.
All right, Jim, if you weren't taking notes,
I got the Rule 20A funds, yeah, that for undergrounding.
got it. All right, then wait, am I skipping over? If anybody, have I skipped over anybody? I do not believe so.
Jim, make part of your note that we want our fair share of it.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, can you
I
do
think there's
that?
a whole report that I'm not sure how much the county is telling any of our supervisors about it and if they've asked. So maybe I'll take all of it and get it distributed over here. We'll get Supervisor Gibson to get it all. But that's a great question. And I'm going to dig into that and see how that's being utilized.
If you had another complaint from us tonight to pick up, it was the thing about sidewalk planting in the community.
Yeah.
And that's almost a city planning thing that can be done locally. And if not, go to the landscape architect firm or in the class in the Cal Poly and ask for a master plan for the community. Because parking is one, sidewalks is one. Because we keep, every time we get to a project, we want sidewalks because we're looking for a plan. But we need one on each side. Some areas do, some areas don't.
Yeah, the larger community plan in general would address that, but that's a really big project, so maybe we can scale something or push for the bigger piece. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, it's really about the detailed plan. That's a really fine grain of plan that's necessary to improve Main Street. But it's not cheap either. I mean, it takes engineering analysis and there's a lot to consider, the storm drainage, the lighting, etc. But I presume, Kermit, the Caltrans study is mostly a safety study.
Yep, you're muted, Kermit. Kermit, you're still muted. He's just going. This is amazing, Kermit.
It wasn't that interesting anyway.
There you are.
You will have to be in the right of way of Caltrans, so to speak, to be able to get a sidewalk. They won't go all the way down the street for you, but they will give you the foundation. Sort of like what our third stoplight goes to the drive. The one going to the park.
To Shamel at Moonstone?
Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway.
Okay. But yeah, Caltrans, I mean, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kermit, Caltrans it's more of like a safety study. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're right, Jeff. But I think we would all agree, just based off of conversations we've been having for 2 years, that we'll back, I mean, we won't back off of a community plan because obviously that's our major goal, but Main Street specifically is worthy of getting at least a few clarifications or amendments on like what's happening here. And Jeff Bloom, I think you're totally right. Like, is there tourism money for looking at that? I think the hard part, and that's what the slow cog thing, at least for me personally, I feel like the slow cog thing really highlights, like, we're unincorporated. We don't have the money to go research. It's like us. I mean, like, this is us, and that's all we have. We don't have a city council. We don't have so who's doing the research? Who's getting this plan? I mean, how many years did it take for us to get to tonight with that Burton Drive that pre-exists me even living here? So I think.
But you got to see, Christina, in the Burton Drive project, you got to see what gets done, but what doesn't get done. It really illustrated the need for that upfront money, because you can't move at all without those initial 30% plans. There's no project until that gets done.
Totally.
So whatever else we want accomplished, where we think we're going to get grant funding and particularly transportation funding, somebody's got to do those 30% plans. And I don't know quite how it got done at the county. Maybe it was enough times that it came up over the years. But, and the other observation I make is I think this is the first time that I can recall in the several years I've been involved in NCAC that the county public works staff actually participated in our meeting.
Well, some of it, yeah, that's true. But some of and that was only his presentation. But what a little bit what you're saying is we had a history in this community of at least 5 or 6 plans that proposed some kind of action in a, yeah, they were ones I did, but that's what I'm saying. If we were really interested in sort of doing a community plan project, we should go to the downtown area. We should probably just go to, get with the county and with them, go to Cal Poly and request that their students do a downtown planning plan to cover our desires that we want to see and see what they propose and see if they will do a sort of a downtown master plan and then use that as a basis to kind of fling it at the county again to say, here's look what we're trying to achieve. And so you need articulation of your project and it has to be written down somewhere to be able to really, something for them to grab and look at and say, okay, we have interest here, not just a casual conversation at the end of it.
Well, I think if everybody,
notice Jim's the only one left in the county here, so no, they don't hear us a lot in this last 15 minutes.
yeah,
So
I think if anybody gets the chance, I happen to be over in Atascadero this week, which I don't usually do. And however they did it, they've done a whole bunch of downtown improvements that were pretty interesting and pretty well done, actually.
But is that because they're a city, Jeff?
They're using city funds to do it, but there's still other grant monies out there to go after, but you have to have somebody chasing it for the purpose of a specific project. So Kermit's right. You could get a Cal Poly design class to do some ideas and concept plans just to get people to see visually how it could be different. But ultimately, you have to have actual engineering plans and things like we saw in the Burton Drive plan, that level of detail, because that was backed up, even though it wasn't complete. He had a basic biological analysis, a basic geotechnical analysis to spin his design off of. So he wasn't just making it up, the engineers. They had enough, and somebody had to survey it. That's the very first piece, is to do an as-built plan of what's actually out there. And that's at Main Street, it would show you all the gaps and shortcomings, if you will, of the current infrastructure. It's about getting beyond what was contemplated 50 years ago when the road plan for Main Street was last adopted.
Yeah, when there were like horses.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I know that, okay, Kermit, if you have something like, and you want to keep this on.
I want to propose we end this meeting.
Okay, perfect. So I will say that we can nerd out and then we can holler at Jim after we nerd out and send some things over and just see, but I feel like it's finally the time to do this. Karen, go ahead. I'm so surprised you're the one with the hand up when somebody said
I just wanted to say, we still have a quorum. Want to take some more votes?
What? Yes. I vote Karen as chair
my bed back there is calling my name.
Thank you guys. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Still on. Congratulations. And yeah, we'll see you next month. And just thank you, everybody. All right,
good night. Thank you.
Bye.